Eagles! Super Bowl week. America should have a national holiday on Sunday and Monday. Half the workforce doesn't go to work on Monday, or that play the game on Saturday so everyone can enjoy themselves on Sunday. I have not missed a Super Bowl. Man, I can't remember. You know, I used to go to Radio Row all the time. Now, it's not so much a big deal. I've been to about 15 Super Bowls. I've been to probably around 20 Radio Row weeks. I mean, it's one of the great events in America. I mean, it's not just American sports, but it's one of the great events in our country. I'm going to start this out by saying this. Big Sills strikes again. I now have another insider in the NovaCare Center. Hello, everyone. Hey, NovaCare Center. You know who it is. Had a great conversation with them over the weekend. Do you guys know who it is? Do you have any idea who my new Eagle insider is? No, really? LJ with the first of his 35,000 tweets or posts. Who do you think it is? Who do you think is the insider that is now at the NovaCare Center? I'll give you 2 hints. Okay? Who is the insider? I got to show you this great picture. We had such a great conversation, too. We had such a great conversation. Do you guys happen to have an idea who it is? Let me see. Man, you guys are way off. Here it is here. Let's see. No. Congrats, the former Canes football DT Clint Hurt on becoming the Eagles' new D-line coach. And in my honor, he wore my college football number 93. That's what we did when we were in college. We wore, and the kids wore particular numbers. 96 for Stubbs. 98 was Jerome. 76 was Reuben Carter. 95 was Kevin Fagan. Your new D-line coach was a guy in one of my proteges. How you doing? How you doing? So you go from a former teammate of mine, Tracy Rocker, to a kid I helped recruit, and Clint Hurt, who's now your D-line coach. Great conversation with him. He asked me what I thought about your 2 defensive tackles. I told him flat out what I thought. He asked me what I thought. I think Clint Hurt is an absolutely spectacular coach in the NFL. He's an asset for you guys to have. Vic getting him, and obviously there's transition going up in Seattle. Getting him, he was former DC up there, as your D-line coach is spectacular. I have a lot of respect for Tracy Rocker. I really do. And here's what I told Clint. He goes, what do you make of these guys? I said Josh Sweat had too many reps. They had no help for him. And he asked me about, I go, Milton Williams should have started after week 11. I go, he's a player, man. He's a versatile player. You can play him in a 7, 5, 3, or a 1. I think Jalen Carter has every makings of being the next Jerome Brown. He couldn't believe I dropped that nugget. I said, I think he's got the makings to be the next Jerome. I think he could be there. Okay? I think he could be that kind of guy. These guys just have to get in better shape. He goes, what about Jordan Davis? I go, man, I'll tell you something. I saw one of the greatest plays in the history of big men when it came to defensive tackles. And I told Clint Hurt, your brand new D-line coach, I said, this kid here, man, has never in his entire career ever sustained excellence with the athletic ability he has. And I gave him a comparison. Let me tell you guys, and he and I talked about this. You guys know who Calais Campbell is? Do you know who Calais Campbell is? Defensive end, NFL. He's another hurricane that came out of the program. And I told him that Calais Campbell never at any time at Miami ever exhibited that he was going to have that kind of career, be a 100-sack guy. I never thought Calais Campbell was that good at Miami. Now, could it have been the coaching? Yes. Could it have been because they rotated a shitload of guys? Completely true. But he never lived up to, like, his ability at Miami. I never really thought he was an A-plus player at UM. Do I think he's a Hall of Fame guy now? I'll tell you what. You could make the argument he's the greatest defensive end ever to come out of our program, and we've produced a shitload of football players, especially defensive players like Ted Hendricks and people like that from our program. I think he's the best end we've ever had. And I think he's been a guy that could knock on the Hall of Fame when his career's over. I mean, he had a great NFL career, and I so told him this. Clint's like, I never thought of it like that because he played with Calais. I said, Calais never showed that consistency. Maybe he will grow into this. I'm talking Jordan Davis. By all accounts, he goes, I had a conversation with him. He seems like a really good kid, man. I go, okay, well then, you know what? If you're compatible, maybe you can deal with him more. And so the relationship is going to be important for the D-line coach to be able to connect, because it could be something like he may finally live up to his ability. Okay? Because he's never, get this, he's relied on his athleticism so much, I said, that it's not important for him to go over and above. Does that make sense? Running down Josh Allen the way he ran Josh Allen down. I've seen so few people. And that's a great question. Nice Cans asked the question, why couldn't Tracy connect? I'm going to get to that here in a minute. I think it was more of an internal issue, and I'll tell you what. Maybe Sirianni did the right thing. He's just the wrong guy. And I'll explain in a moment what I also heard. Now, I didn't get that. My next comment about the side's not going to be from Clint Hurt. I want that very clear. Okay? Not from him at all, the new D-line coach. So I just have to say that I think Clint is going to have I don't think it's going to be an easy chore for Jordan Davis, but Davis has got to learn to play up to his ability all the time. Okay? He's got to learn to play up to his ability. Before I get into my other comment about Sean Desai here, I watched a little bit of the Pro Bowl games, and I'll just make this comment. It won't be long before we have these woke politicians and these soft-ass people in this country that will be petitioning to have flag football, and I did say flag football, replace contact football, because people in this country are so soft, or at least half the country soft, when it comes to football and what football is. People don't want to be physical and see physical games like that, especially the woke-ass politicians in this country. There'll be petitions soon. See? Look at flag football. It's a joke. Flag football's a joke. That whole thing was a joke. It'll get great ratings, because you know why? Everyone likes to see their NFL stars. But it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But you'll get these politicians going, California, there was an addendum on the table that would take contact football away and replace it with flags. I was like this. That's when you should secede from the union if you ever took contact football away. Any state that does that crap and says we should not have contact football, you should secede from the Union of the United States of America and call yourselves the fascist country that you would be. Because football in this country is king. Okay? It's king. Okay. You know, I'm not going to tell you that I'm a reporter here. Oh, by the way, Dave wants that. 3:30. Our good friend Tone will be with us at 4:30. We're going to kind of change the rotation a little bit here. Dave, the owner of 3 Super Bowl championships as D coordinator and very good friends with Vic Fangio, will tell us what's in store for this football team as we get ready for the offseason here. I was told this by some departing coaches on your Eagles staff. Sean Desai was a very headstrong person who had problems connecting with the players in the locker room. It got to a point by the end of the year that Hassan Reddick and other players on that team weren't even speaking with the D coordinator. And that many of the players were going to Nick and Howie and expressing their frustration that he was unapproachable. And he started calling players out in team defensive meetings. So Nick making the move was the right move. He just made it with the wrong dude, and he went with it. Makes sense now. So you might want to kind of back up a little bit here on Sirianni, because who would he have put in that role that was in-house that had not been a D coordinator with history? Was there any other guy in that building that they had? They weren't going to go out of house and out of the organization in week 13. So he actually probably was forced to make that move. Sean Desai, now that we're finding out more, and as more is being leaked out, was intolerable. Nobody could deal with him. Okay? And I got this from a couple of the coaches that were leaving. Now, look, when a guy posts something or a guy says something, I don't give a fuck about those guys. I care about coaches that were in the building. And what they're saying is that Sean Desai was very hard to deal with. And Nick had problems with him communicating. So they had a lot of turmoil in the building, and it just started eroding. It just started eroding by the end of the season. Okay? Twiz, I have no idea who Philly Mike is. I've never heard of him until you just posted. If you're under the impression I watch other shows, I only watch Sports Take, Philly 500, and that's it. I don't know any other shows outside of mine. I don't sit around watching other shows. I've been doing this for 32 years. If you fucking think I need anybody else to help me do a show, you're off your rocker. I've never needed anybody else to do a show. I don't watch McAfee. And now that he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers, I don't watch that thing either. I've never watched the show, but Sports Take, I post it because I like Tone and I like Rob. I'll watch a little bit every now and then, but it's too early for me. Birds 365. And by the way, look at Mask goes, he's lying. Hey, Mask, you're under the impression that I respect you. That means that I have to sit here and go like this, that I would lie to you because why? What is it to me to lie to you? Do you actually believe in your heart that I would lie to you? Why would I do that? You're not that important to me. And nor I. So I don't know what you're talking about. Dude, I lie to women. I don't lie to other men because I don't have to. I mean, you make it sound, by the way, Mask, I appreciate you being here. It's talking shit to you. Okay? Oh, it's all good, man. We're good. Mask knows, man. Hey, Tone, look. Mask goes, that's the old Sills I remember. Mask, stop doing that. I'm trying to be a nice guy, man, you son of a bee. Look at me, man. I'm trying to be nice. Damn you, Mask. Damn you, Mask. Shit. Come on, man. I had a good weekend. It was senior night. Okay. I lie to women. Yeah, you lie to women, man. You don't lie to other men. What for? What are you lying to a guy for? It's sports talk. We all run our... Dude, I love you, Mask. Even though you give me a ton of shit. And that other guy, BJ. Is it BJ or LJ? LJ now is, hey, Tone. We're going to give LJ an award at the end of the year for the biggest stalker in sports talk history. You know what? I feel like Taylor Swift now. I've never been stalked before, but now I'm being stalked. And it's incredible that I'm being stalked like this. I mean, it makes, I don't know. Are you trying to make me feel feminine a little, LJ? I mean, I don't know here, man. I mean, I've really never been stalked like this. I mean, I don't know. I feel a little weird here. And knowing that my girlfriend, BJ or LJ or whatever it is here every day. And it's kind of, I don't know. We were driving back from Phoenix and I was thinking, man, I don't know. How do I feel about somebody writing me a love letter 32,000 times? Hey, I live in your head rent free. Of course you do. When you fucking write love letters 35,000 times in 1 year, of course you do. Who in their right mind writes love letters and 35,000 of them? I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't go, is this guy okay? It's okay for me to go on, right, Tone? Holy cow here, man. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I guess it's okay to continue. Sure. All right. I'll continue after being stalked. Man, like a girl here. I feel like Taylor Swift. Taking pictures, people posting shit, saying things about me. Man. Bro, I've got this guy unhinged. What's unhinged? LJ, you've never seen me unhinged, and nor would you ever. Dude, you see this pen holder? This pen top? That's what I think of you. You're a pen top. Unhinged? He thinks this makes me unhinged. A pen top. Okay. Hey, post away, kid. Break your fingers. Hey, go ahead. Break your fingers. It's all good. Here. He got his 2 seconds of love. Now he can go to his corner with his little aluminum hat on. Let's move on here. All right. Now we go back to the Comedy Store. That's the NovaCare Center. Yes, sir, baby. And we get you ready for some of the most critical moves in critical time, I think, in trying to turn this thing around with the Philadelphia Eagles as we get ready. They have addressed the coaching staffs, obviously. Moves that the Eagles cannot do this 2024 offseason. What do you think some of those moves can happen? Moves that the Eagles cannot do this 2024 offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you think? What are some of the key things they can't let happen this offseason? Here, I'll get it going. The Birds cannot pay for aging stars any longer. Brandon Graham, goodbye. Fletcher Cox, tough one. Tough one. Stop paying for money for older guys. Get them out of here. Okay? Jason Kelce, I'm going to live. Okay, we're good. But I'm not paying for older guys anymore, which means veteran guys, just to cover your mistakes that you have in the draft. Okay? When you pay for veteran guys and older guys, like Shaq Leonard and Kevin Byard, and you pay money to those guys and they don't pan out, it's a salary cap disaster. Birds have to look at the safety and linebacker positions differently. You can't go status quo. Let me give you a history. Tell me what you think of this. The last time that the Eagles drafted a safety in the first round was Lito Shepherd in 2002. You know, the last time you guys drafted a linebacker in the first round, it was 1979. What is that? If you see a great player like Kyle Hamilton and he's a safety, he's on a rookie deal, draft him. What is the problem here with that? We don't waste draft equity on safeties and linebackers? Will you waste draft equity on corners and linebackers that you draft anyway? You never get it right. You never get it right. You have to look at the people that this kid, Edgerrin Cooper from A&M. I don't know why he's not being projected in the first. I think he's a fabulous player. I think it's the de-emphasizing of the linebacker position by NFL scouts. It's another one of the positions, just like the running back position. These guys have to look at that position differently. Put some risk behind it, man. You have been dog shit at that position, safety and linebacker, for 20 years. How about this one here? The Birds need a better backup plan at linebacker and D tackle, which means depth. I mean, those Georgia guys, you got to get some backups for these guys because all three failed. I don't think Jalen Carter failed. I think Jalen Carter played like a rookie and above a rookie. He was above board, but he lasted like a regular rookie. The other Georgia guys that were in the lineup at linebacker and D tackle, if you put it together, you go like this. They were below a C average because Jordan Davis came out of the gate great, got an A in the first 8 games, then he got an F in the back 8. So you give him a D+. Jalen was awesome the first 10 weeks, and the last 7, each week he progressively got weaker. And the linebacking position with your guy, Nakobe Dean, was a train wreck. 49ers O-line cost $25 million. The Eagles, $42 million. Yeah, think about that. Hollywood, and they had more Pro Bowlers and they went nowhere. Hey, so you're paying, Hollywood, the 49ers are paying their O-line $25 million. Their quarterback, $870,000. That's why they can pay Kittle, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel. You're paying big money at both offensive tackles, center, and soon to be guard. Are the Eagles really going to go like this? $15 million for Milata, $20 million for Landon, 15 for Kelsey, and another 18 for Lane. Wow. You better win a Super Bowl, man. You got all your money in your O-line. Sure ain't anywhere else. Here's another one. It would be a massive mistake, in my opinion, if the Eagles don't do something about acquiring a physical back that's in the draft or potentially free agency. They were soft running the ball. They were not physical. You know what you're morphing into right now? You're morphing into a finesse team. You're starting to look like a finesse team. Would you not agree? The back 8 games of that schedule, they played like a finesse team. They weren't dominant at the point of attack. They just weren't. The run offense, most of the games, they got completely outrushed. I mean, look at a Buck game. They couldn't even get 100 yards against the Bucks. I mean, you turned into a finesse team. And you're paying all that money in your O-line, and you're a finesse team. You threw the ball more. You had more passes downfield. You got away from RPOs. You're trying to become a finesse team. Okay, well, I thought your identity was being physical. You were not physical in the back half of your schedule. You were not physical. That's not a physical football team right now. You got punched in the face in the last 8 weeks. You get punched in the face. Everyone punched. The Bills put up 500 yards on you. You got killed. And it's trending that way, that you're a finesse team now. By the way, that's who you are. You guys would rather throw the ball, big explosion plays, not run the ball as much. And that's what they did. It's not an opinion. They have to be more physical, in my opinion, for this to work. Now, how do you get here? How do you move the roster around? How do you find, and by the way, Tone and I looked at it. Stop with your bullshit. Right now, you're going to have $20 million in cap space. $18 million of that is going to be allocated towards your draft. Facts. So you have very little room to maneuver. We're going to help them create some space here to be able to maneuver. Okay? All right? Here's what they're going to have to start to do. I want you to sit here and do this. What players on the team do you believe helps create some space for them to be able to move around and create more latitude for them to be able to create some cap space? To me, I think you first have to start with those corners. You have to go to the corner position, and you have to redo both those deals somehow. Whether that's giving money up front again, restructuring contracts, you've got to get those bases down. Because the dead cap money on those guys, it is the biggest disaster that you have right now on your team are your 2 corners, because it's economically not feasible to keep those guys. It's just not. But it's not economically feasible to cut those guys. So you've got to make some really come to Jesus conversations. You have to redo. And they've got to be willing to. Dude, I'd make this very clear. If I'm Howie Roseman, I look at them and I go like this. Listen, guys, could it have been a bad year? Sean Desai was a train wreck. That's going to play into this conversation now. That Desai had problems with the secondary. And he had problems connecting with those guys. Slade didn't even want to play for him. That's the word. Slade didn't even want to play for the guy. And get this, he didn't want to play for Matt Patricia either. I'm thinking that arthroscope that he got was more of a message on what they did and putting the wrong guy in a position. They should have just kept Desai. That being said, he hated Patricia more. I mean, you've got to fix those corners economically and salary cap wise. Dude, bring them both back at a cheap price that you can cut if they can't make it in camp. And by the way, I'm going to have a tougher camp this year. Guys have to earn their jobs. Do you guys agree with me? The problem with the Eagles, nobody earns a job. They're given jobs. Nobody earns jobs in Philly. Howie gives them to you because he drafts you. There's no structural reward in Philly. You get handed jobs. Shit, Jalen Hurts was handed a job. All these guys were handed jobs. They weren't in a position where they had to beat someone out. That's right. I like that, Matt. Hey, beat a guy out. Beat him into submission. It's about time somebody earned a job. Nobody in Philly earns a job. Did Nakobe Dean earn an opportunity to start in the NFL? Why? Because Howie drafted him? That's not how it works. Think about that. They named Nakobe Dean, and they're going to do it again. They're going to name him a starter because they drafted him, not because of his body of work. That's a free pass. That's a free pass. Hurts went 3 years earning that job. Hey, wait a minute. No, he didn't. They didn't bring a quarterback in to compete with him in camp. Once they got rid of Wentz, it was his job. He never competed for that gig. That's not true. In 21, who did he compete with in camp? They didn't even have a camp. They don't have camp in Philly. Who did Jalen Hurts compete with in camp in 21? Joe Flacco? Who did he compete with? Who did he compete with? I get it. By the way, he's a second rounder. We're not talking about a first rounder. Remember, that's a different distinction in how the league looks at them guys. Flexen, who did he compete with in 21 for the job? Give me a break. You can't even name me a guy. You can't name me a guy he competed with. You handed him the job. Okay? That's why you're going to get ups and downs. Because he never had to. Dude, nobody on that team competes for gigs. Okay? Nobody competes. Have a camp. Make somebody earn a job. Here's, again, so what do you do with Reddick? What do you do with Hassan Reddick? Do you trade him? Do you extend him? Do you trade him or extend him? What do you do with Reddick? What do you do with Reddick? You extend. You keep him. You extend him. Minshew was in that building. Mariota was in that building. Neither beat out Hurts. Okay. So he competed against Gardner. Mariota was not in the building in 21, dickhead. Minshew was. So he beat Gardner Minshew out. Congratulations. Hey, he's a Pro Bowler. So I guess it's something. The two Pro Bowlers on the NFC side are Hurts and Gardner Minshew. Oh, wait, he's AFC. That's right. Okay. Trade Reddick. Okay. If you extend him, you cut back $11.832 million on your cap. Okay? So now you're starting to create some space for you to do some damage here. You create it. Would I extend him? The only reason I extend him is because I'm looking to get my cap number down, and you don't really have another pass rusher that's on that team that's going to get you double digits that you're comfortable in. Is Josh Sweat going to be a double-digit guy? I don't know. I think last year may have been the high end of Josh Sweat's career. We don't know that yet because he's not put multiple sack seasons together yet. So I'm keeping him because he's my only surefire thing. My only problem that I have with him is that Vic Fangio's got to use him more to his skill set. He's like Q. I'll tell you what, I've never seen a player more like Q Douglas in my life than Hassan Reddick. Hugh Douglas was not a great tackler. Hugh Douglas couldn't cover. So what did Jim Johnson do? He created a position for him to rush the passer. And that's what turned him into an Eagle Hall of Famer. That's kind of the same thing with Reddick. You got to use him like Hugh. Okay? You remember how they would rush Hugh? Go back and look at the beginning of Hugh Douglas's career. Okay? Now, look, I went through the roster and I started singling some of these people out on what to do and how to bring these people in and how to get that cap number down. And I looked at the entire free agency group and also the people that you want to bring back. And to me, I think you do extend Hassan Reddick and you get $11 million to reduce it down, and you reduce it down by going through his base salary and getting that number down. Now, would Hassan be up for that? Here's the other problem that you have. Would Reddick hold out if they wanted to do that? So what do you mean? You're going to do what? You see, when you say extend, that doesn't mean you're giving him more money. All that means is you're giving money that's owed to him up front. Is that something he'd be open to? This is his last contract. If he doesn't do something now in this offseason, we're going to be talking about a 30-year-old guy at the end of this. Is he going to be open to not getting more money, but getting money up front? That's where he has to. And by the way, if you're Hassan Reddick, you got to do this. Damn, dude, I found a home. Do I think the grass is greener on the other side? See, again, will he be willing to open though? Would he be willing to do this without having a contract extension with more money tied to it? Should the Eagles give him $5 more million and make him a $20 million a year guy? I don't know. I don't think if that were me and the Eagles came to him and said, hey, we want to give you an extension. Okay. What do you want to do? Well, we'll give you the money up front that is owed to you. Add another year onto it. At 15, not interested. Not interested. So you want to hold out? But we're not doing anything more than that. If you're Hassan Reddick, do you hold out and demand a trade? If I'm Hassan Reddick, if I think my market value And Tone showed me the market value last week is only $15 million. He's got to take that into his agent's consideration, both of them, and go, my contract, I'm making 15 now. My market value is 15. That to me right now is not a smart move, me sitting around holding out, when if I went on the open market, I would get less money probably because of my deficiencies I have on playing the run. You've got to determine is the grass greener on the other side? Who do you think has the leverage here? The Eagles or Hassan Reddick? I think that's a point you have to go into this negotiations with. Because listen, you don't have enough cap space to fix your defense. You need more cap space. Who has the leverage here? Hassan Reddick or the Eagles? I think the Eagles do. I don't think Reddick does. I think the Eagles do, because here's why. When Tone told me his market value is 15, and that's what he's making now, his value is stagnant. His value has not gone up. Even though he's been a multi-sack guy, multi-season sack guy since he's been in Philly. And if you look over his last 4 years, this guy's got over 50 sacks. It's pretty remarkable. But I think the league looks at him as being a deficiency on a defense. Like if you put Hassan Reddick on another defense, you'd have a problem playing him again. He's one-dimensional. He actually hurts your defense being on the field in 3rd and long and in nickel if he doesn't get home. Because if he doesn't get home, he's useless. Are you paying $20 million for a guy to get you 12 sacks? I don't know. I don't think you should offer him more money. I think you offer him another year at the same price. See what he says. Get that number down, 11.8. I don't think the Eagles should budge off that. Why would he hold out? If he holds out, his market value will go down next year because he'll be a year older. He would have not made the money, and both parties lose, but Reddick loses more. It doesn't make sense. I think Philly I think they do have the leverage here. And I think he'd be open. Now, again, do you throw a couple million there with incentives? Maybe. Gets to 15 sacks, gets to 20. You build in some escalators for him, roster bonuses. Maybe you do something like that, but you got to get that number down. And if you get that number down, going into a contract, I'm telling you, I don't think his market value is very high compared to the other pass rushers in the league, especially when Tone told me he's $15 million. $15 million for a guy who in the last 2 years has what? 28 sacks? And his market value didn't go up? That's a problem for me. He won't get big money on the open market. So I have leverage. Dude, if that guy was in the range of 25 million, 26 million, Reddick's got the leverage. He doesn't have the leverage here. He's getting older, and he's a one-trick pony. Okay? So let's take that off the list. That's 11 million. 12 million, somewhere in there, depending on what you do with incentives and if you offer more money. Do you extend Josh Sweat? Do you extend Josh Sweat? You'd save around 2.9. According to the NFL Players Association, you'd save about 2.9 if you redid his deal. So let me break that down. 11 and 3, we'll call it. Now you're hitting around 14 million. Would you extend him? He's been your most consistent defensive football player the last 3 years, I think. Okay? And I would say this, it's coming up to around 3 million. Okay? And coming around the corner here where you're going to extend him, I would extend him. Okay? I would. All right. So you save around 2 point. Sweat is not washed. He's not washed. Next guy. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Lane Johnson. They had a contract with Lane Johnson and an extension and a redo with him, I believe, a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. And Lane Johnson has said that he'll do whatever it takes for them to be able to spread more money around. And he was talking to Jason Kelsey about this, that if they need to work around and give him a would you restructure Lane Johnson's money, give him more of the money that's going to be owed to him this year, next year, to reduce his base down more so that they could spread that money around and create around $2.4 million. When it comes to, it'd be another 2.4, according to the NFL Players Association. If you restructure Lane in his next 2 years, you could get 2.4 million. Give him more of a bag of money up front here. Okay? Because you're going to need to spend money on Landon Dickerson, and you're going to need to spend money on Milton Williams, and you're going to need to spend money on some of the other players that you're going to have to address in 2025, like Devontae Smith, down the line. Okay? I'm cutting Avonte Maddox. I'm done with him. Would you cut him? I'm finished with him. Go be someone else's problem. I'm done with him. Cut him. I don't want him on my football team. Silsey's good. No, he's not. Stop saying that. Cut him. Just cut him. I can't have a guy who can't play. I don't care how talented he is. This guy's Mr. MIA. Cut his ass. He's just not there. He's unreliable. I can't count on him. Just cut him. Okay? Cut him. Cut him. You have to create about $42 million to $44 million in cap space for you to be able to move forward this coming season to retool your defense. Are you going to spend the money on safety? Are you going to draft people at safety? Are you going to spend money at linebacker? And where your backup's coming from? I'm going to tell you where I think you need and how much money I think you need when it comes to paying for people. A good safety in this league, if you're going to go free agency, you're going to spend around $6 million on a safety that's going to be compatible and play for you. Okay? A linebacker that's going to be functional for you, you're going to spend another $8 million. That's $14 million in two players. You're going to need two tackles that are going to be combined $10 million. Not a piece, but $10 million in backup, like you had with Sue and Joseph. That was around 6. So let's say 6. That's $20 million. You still, right now, again, we created about $40 million. Now you're back to 20. 18 has to go to the draft, which means you have $16 million. You have $2 million after I spend the 14 here. If you want to spend money at edge, you got to get 2 edge rushers. That's going to cost you another 10. That's $24 million if you're going veterans. $24 million. Are you bringing Cunningham back? At what price? 5? That's $29 million. Okay? That's $29 million. You got 10. You don't have the money. You can't miss in this draft. This is going to be Howie Roseman's most significant draft he has ever had in his career in Philadelphia. He can't miss. You know why? You don't have the money. No matter how much restructuring you do, no matter how much money you try to find, you have too many holes to fill and you don't have enough money. Okay? You don't have the money. You've got to sit here, and in my opinion, you've got to hit on the draft. You've got to hit on the draft. Or your football team is going to be in trouble. And let me show you something here to even go further down the line. By the way, you probably need another 2 linebackers. Okay? Here are the quarterbacks you're playing this year. You're playing a guy who threw for 700 and whatever was it, Tone, 50 yards, and Sam Howell versus you. That guy had career games against you. You're playing against Daniel Jones. Some of you will go, Daniel Jones sucks. Tyrod Taylor beat you. I'd be careful. Tyrod Taylor beat you. Along with Tommy DeVito. Look at, calls him a bum. Drew Lock's a bum. You couldn't beat him. Don't make yourself sound better than you are. You're not. All new faces, all new coaches, all new coordinators. And here we are again. Same shit, same bad channel. You have no way that you're going to be a formidable defense this coming season. I would gander to think that you're going to be down in the low 20s defensively. You have no shot at being a top 10 defense or a top 15 defense. There is no chance in hell. With the current state, the way the team is now, there's no shot. You don't have money, and you don't have enough drafting expertise in the building to get it done. Where have you done it before? You're going to be taking on Deshaun Watson. You're going to be taking on Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and don't snooze at Baker Mayfield. He had a better passing season than Hurts, Matthew Stafford, and Trevor Lawrence. You're taking on all these quarterbacks with probably a worse defense than you had a year ago. Vic Fangio's not fixing this. I'll put him in better positions to succeed. But you guys are making it sound like you're going to have some sort of like renaissance, or there's going to be like an exorcism on your defense. What are you talking about? Anthony goes, safety and linebackers have to be addressed. How? Anthony, in the draft? So here, let's do Anthony's take there. Anthony, I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. I'm not saying you're wrong. So what you're going to do is this. You're going to get another rookie safety. You're going to get 2 rookie edge rushers. You're going to get 2 rookie linebackers. So the 6 of the 11 that will have playing time. And maybe a corner. So you're going to get 7 rookies that you're hoping to play on your 11-man defensive roster, starting football team, and you think you're going to beat Joe Burrow with 7 rookies. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City gets away with that because they have Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid. Okay? And by the way, I see people in here talking about me ripping on the Eagle draft. You sucked at linebacker, safety, corner, and edge for 20 years. For 20 years, you've blown at that. What are you talking about? You guys are making it sound like you've been like hitting grand slams. Hurts is still QB1. Hurts had an average year, in my opinion. I'm not blowing that thing up. Had a good year. Okay, whatever. So did Gardner Minshew. He's a Pro Bowler too. Whatever. Nobody has a good year when you get outplayed by Drew Lock, Tyrod Taylor, and Baker Mayfield. Nobody has a good year when you're getting beat consecutively like that. And the losses that you had this year. Think about the losses and the quarterbacks you lost to. With the defense you had this year, you lost to Zach Wilson. You lost to Drew Lock in Seattle. You lost to Tyrod Taylor and the Giants. And you lost to Baker Mayfield, the guy who's on his third team in 2 years. Fourth team in 2 years. And somehow you think you're going to find enough money to spend in free agency and that your general manager is going to hit on draft picks. Where do you think that? What? I would say this, the last 5 years, the biggest draft pick that they've landed on has been Devontae and Hurts. Good on offense. On defense, who's their top draft choice that they've hit on in the last 5 years? Jalen Carter? I think so. Who? Who on defense in the last 5 years have you hit on? The last 5 drafts. Milton Williams? They got him in a backup role. Sweat and Carter? I think Carter. Ringo? Stop going there. I saw nothing that made me think he's a top line player. Is there some potential? You know what potential is? Let me give you guys a little note. And I hear people using the word potential. And it nauseates me. You know what potential means? You haven't done it yet. That's the word potential. You haven't done it. This guy's got great potential. Okay, so you're telling me he hasn't done it yet. Okay. Just want to be clear on that. Okay? He's got potential. Okay, well, so he hasn't done it. Okay? Sales, can't players like Kevin Byard and Avonte Maddox be cut and replaced? In my opinion, both those guys are gone. I would not want one of those players on my football team. One I can't count on, the other one's done. Is absolutely done. Get rid of both those guys. Just, I don't want anything to do with Kevin Byard. No disrespect, great career. I know you were a Pro Bowler and All-Pro. Phenomenal. No disrespect. I got to build a roster here, though, and you're not part of it. You're just not part of it. It's not happening. I mean, the Fletcher Cox decision, if I'm Fletcher Cox, do I come back to that? Or do I go on the open market and go to Cleveland, where I can go there with Jim Schwartz, maybe try to win a ring? You're not winning a ring in Philly. So maybe you do something like that. I know he would never go to Dallas, but do you go to the AFC? Do you go to Kansas City? Do you go to Buffalo? Do you do something like that? Do you go to Miami? If I'm Fletcher, do I come back to do what? Be on another shitty defense? That's not the way I want to end my career, but I don't want to end it in another uniform either. It's got some pretty tough decisions. Would I want him back? What would I pay Fletcher Cox to come back? What's he now making? $8 million? $10 million? What would he make in the open market at 33? He's not making that. He's what Adamic and Sue was. Sue got $3 million. And he had to wait. And they prorated it. If he goes on the open market right now, he was not getting $10 million. Not a chance in hell. And there's lies the Eagles overpaying him. He's about a $3.5 million guy. And the Eagles are overpaying $7 million for Fletcher Cox because you like him. Is that business that you want to do? Do I want him? Do I like him? Yeah, but he could get maybe something more. And if I'm going to make the same, why would I stay in Philly when I know I don't have a shot at a Super Bowl? Why would I stay there? And they want to go younger. Does it make sense for me to come back in Philly and not go to a place that is close to winning a Super Bowl? Baltimore? Place like that? Hey, I get it. It'd be an emotional decision. But you got to be smart here. Fletcher Cox is not a $10 million a year guy. He's not. He could never get that in the open market at 33, 34 years old. He's just not. Paying for old dudes again. Hey, Brandon Graham wanting a celebrity victory parade tour at whatever number is not feasible. So you want me to spend $15 million on two guys that Brandon Graham be lucky to get $2 million on the open market and Fletcher be lucky to get $3.5 million. And you want me to spend $15 million on them two guys? Not happening. That's why New England was the place that made the tough cuts and got rid of guys. That's 15 where you can save money right there. Getting rid of Fletcher. Or Fletcher wants to go down to $3.5 million. Fletcher wants to go down to $3.5 million. I don't have a problem with that. And I'd love to have him. But $10 million? No, thank you. I have no interest in that. He could never, you know what? The Eagles would be bidding against themselves if they gave Fletcher Cox $10 million. His market value is not that high. $10 million? Give me a break. No shot. Year older next year? Coming up here? You want to get younger and cheaper? Did he have a good year? Yeah. It's the only thing keeping his value alive. Not paying him that. Brandon Graham 5, Fletcher 15 is a waste. Both those players, if you want them back on your team, 6.5, 7, not 15. Not 15. And you know I'm right. You know I'm right. Get this. If I'm looking at Hassan Reddick, you got to remember, you got to start with the money. You guys are looking at Jordan Mailata redoing deals and Josh Sweat. Dude, you got to get rid of Fletcher Cox. And you got to get rid of Brandon Graham. You need the roster spots, and they're not economically feasible. You're overpaying and you're out. You're just bidding against yourself. Not one team in National Football League give that guy $10 million a year at 34 years old. No way. He'll be paid like Sue and Linville Joseph were. Start to go around a little bit. He may get 5. He may get that, but he's not a 10 guy. You're wasting money. Just wasting money. Davis, Carter, Williams need to be your starting trio at DT. Cox coming back tells me they aren't ready to take over. Matt, that's exactly correct. The Eagles, if they bring back Fletcher Cox, they're afraid that Jordan Davis is not what they think he's going to be. And they'll overpay Fletcher for that. Because if you were sold on your first, get this, you have the 9th pick and the 13th pick and a 3rd rounder, and you got a 34-year-old DT you're paying $10 million to, what's that tell you if you bring him back? that you're not sold on both the Georgia kids. I'm not saying to Carter you're not sold on because he had a really good year, but you're not sold on Davis. And you don't know if Milton Williams can handle the load of carrying as a swing tackle. That's what that says. You have the 9th and the 13th and a 3rd rounder invested at your D tackle position, and you're going to pay $10 million to a 34-year-old D tackle. Is stupid. And you're bidding against yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, you got to see, don't get emotional when it comes to players leaving. That's your problem. You love the team so much you fall in love with the players. I don't give a shit about the players because management at the end doesn't give a shit about us. Maybe that's because I've been in that position and many of you haven't. And you think that, look, Kelsey is different. Brandon Graham is different. Fletcher is different because they've had a really great relationship with the organization and the owner and the community. I get it. I understand that. But 99% of the time, players and ownership, nobody cares. Nobody's loyal to anybody. The only people, you know what's sad? The only people that are loyal are the fans. Okay? Okay? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And by the way, it just doesn't make sense to bring those guys back. I'm not bringing back Kevin Byard, Avonte Maddox. I'm not bringing back Brandon Graham. I'm not a $10 million bringing back Fletcher Cox. All that money and all of those roster spots have to be replaced. By the way, it's time to move on from Fletcher. And if it's not, you made mistakes somewhere in your drafting. How in the world can you have a 3rd rounder, the 9th pick, and the 13th pick? All these guys are young, and you're still holding on to an overpaid DT who's good. He's not bad. This is not an indictment on his season last year. I thought he played really good. But it's time. It's time. It's time to move on here. I mean, once again, Howie can't miss. He can't. All right, Dave Wanstadt's going to join us. We'll talk a little bit on how they built that dynasty. Now, remember something about the Dallas Cowboy dynasty. There was no salary cap. He knows Vic Fangio. He knows who Clint Hurt is because Clint Hurt's a Hurricane. We all have great connections in with that. So we'll talk to Dave. We'll talk about Super Bowl week. It is Super Bowl week. Dave's got 3 rings. We'll talk to him. Fox Sports is Dave Wanstadt. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. Tone kind of had a change in the lineup here. That'll be tomorrow. That'll be 4:30 today. By the way, we got a treat tomorrow. Hey, Tone, you know who Lauryn Hill is? Do you know who Lauryn Hill is from the Fugees? Of course. She's a dear friend of mine. Known her forever. Her dear friend and ex-husband. And tomorrow's Bob Marley's birthday. And he is a former linebacker, loves sports. And they got a documentary coming out on Bob Marley. Rohan's going to join us. That'll be tomorrow at around 5:30 Eastern time. We'll be celebrating Bob Marley tomorrow with one of his sons. That'll be at 5:30. He was married to Lauryn Hill of the Fugees. And we had a chance to hang out, drink it up a little bit. You guys like the Fugees? Did you like the Fugees? I did. Hey, I'll tell you what though, man. Hey, she's pretty You got to see her in person, too. If you think Sierra, you're like this. Okay. Hey. Oh, hey. Okay. Okay. Lauryn Hill, man, she's quite a person. I really like her a lot, and I still do. All right, Dave Wants That will join us at the bottom of the hour. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sills. Dave Wants That will join us. That'll be at the bottom of this hour here. We welcome you. You know, it was funny last night. I was watching the Grammys, and I saw Taylor Swift there, and I also saw Killer Mike. Killer Mike, they slapped cuffs on him because of an assault. So he wins 3 Grammys. They slapped cuffs on him. Just shows you that the Grammys aren't on the same page with the Oscars, because Will Smith can get on stage and beat the shit out of Chris Rock and nothing said or done. Must be an elitist thing there when it comes to Hollywood and how they look at certain awards. You get arrested if you're a rapper, or if you get arrested if you're a musician. But if you're one of those Hollywood ding-dongs and one of those Hollywood elites, you could beat the shit out of each other and nobody say anything. And they call that probably creative. You know, those actors and actresses in Hollywood, they're to me what SpongeBob and like Wile E. Coyote are. They're not real people. They're just characters of themselves. Okay? You couldn't wait until the end of the whole thing, had somebody come up to him in normal clothes and go, hey, listen, we got an issue here. Instead, you try to what? Make a name for yourself? What a dummy. It's stupid shit, man. You can beat the shit. You can go on stage and assault somebody in front of 60 million people. And the Hollywood people go like this. Oh, he's misunderstood. And his old lady is having sex with her son's best friend. And they all sit there. How does it feel with me having sex with your son's friend? And you sit there and look at that and go, now, I'm sorry, but I don't like live in that world. How, like, I just thought it was really kind of like, really, oh, they arrest him, but not Will Smith. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. Sure. I guess. Right? Real quick before I move on here. By the way, the news on Sean Desai being a headache in the building. Do we owe Nick Sirianni an apology? Do we? I'll get to that here in a minute. The 3 biggest plays in Super Bowl history. You ready? The Philly special. Malcolm Butler's interception against the Seahawks on the goal line. David Tyree's helmet catch. What was the most memorable play between those 3? Malcolm Butler's INT. Run the ball, dude. You had beast mode. You'd have won 2 in a row. David Tyree's helmet catch. You beat the GOAT. And Philly special. 3 most memorable plays in the Super Bowl. Tyree helmet catch. That helmet catch too, man. Like, you're right. Yeah, but that Philly moment, man, that Philly special, let's run it. Sunday was the anniversary of the Eagles winning the Super Bowl against Belichick and Brady. Oh my God. Who was the linebacker in that, hey, I'm awake or you? Who's the linebacker that stopped him from putting that thing out 1 yard away when the Titans were right down there on the goal line? God, that Super Bowl would have done so much for Steve McNair and his legacy. I'm a huge McNair fan. Mike Jones, that's it, from the Rams. Yeah, man. I loved Steve McNair. What a great football player, man. Tough. Oh, shit. I really did. I was a McNair fan. I just absolutely loved it. All right. So, Sean Desai, I want to get back onto this here. Do we owe Nick Sirianni an apology? It got to a point this year where the players and everyone stopped listening to Sean Desai. Nick felt loyal to him. That's why they didn't fire him. The players fired him. The players fired him. At the end of the day, Nick was covering for him. That's what we're hearing. Okay? 11 goes no apologies. Who hired Sean Desai? Is my question. If it's Nick, and then he turns around and makes another poor coaching decision with Matt, is this why they took all these power away from him and are now bringing in coach? Get this. There's not a chance in hell Nick Sirianni has a say. Don't you get it publicly what they're doing to Nick Sirianni? By hiring Clint Hurt, hiring all these other coordinators as position coaches and bringing these guys all in, Nick has no say over his new coaching staff. How can a head coach not have say over one hire and be called the head coach? You get how this looks. You're like demasculating this guy in public. Who hired the coordinators? It wasn't Nick. Who hired the D-line coach? Wasn't Nick. It was Vic, Kellen. These guys are doing all the hires. They're doing all the hires because Howie has told the new coordinators, get whoever you want. Whoever you want, we're going to be good with. Howie knows his ass is on the line next. You get that, right? This is about self-preservation here. Who survives, Nick or Howie? Howie is making sure right now that Nick doesn't drag him. He's making sure right now that Nick doesn't drag him down with him by making these hires or allowing these coordinators to hire. Okay? I can't wait. See, right before, I want to set this up for my coach. I got to tell you something. One thing that you would never, ever confuse Jimmy Johnson or Dave Wanstead or Butch Davis when they were building the Hurricane program and then, of course, the legendary Cowboy dynasty. You would never hear these words, control and contain. They were aggressive. I don't believe Dave was much of a blitzer because you know what he believed in? The front four getting home. He wanted the front four getting home. He wanted guys. The one year that the 1 year when I was with Jerome, we had 59 sacks in 12 games. He didn't need to blitz. And when they got Haley in Dallas, they didn't really need the blitz. So when Vic Fangio comes in, if you guys are thinking you're going to see a higher volume of blitzing in Philly, he's a control and contain guy. That's not who he is. Now, is that a league thing? Let's bring Dave Wanstead in with us, the owner of a couple Super Bowls and a national championship, obviously, former head coach of the Bears and Dolphins. Coach, I start this off before you even get going. You know, it's been 23 years since the Dolphins have won a playoff game, and you and Jimmy are the last two coaches in Miami to won playoff games for the Dolphins as head coaches. Pretty crazy, huh?
That's real crazy. Yeah, it is. I think it just illustrates the point, Danny, how tough it is, one, to get to the playoffs, two, to win a playoff game. And when you talk about winning Super Bowls, I mean, it's easy to say, but we all know who's coached and played the game. It's very difficult. I'll give you one better than that. The last time the Bears won a road playoff game, I was the coach of the Bears.
Everybody thinks it's easy being in that main headset, and I don't think they realize how hard it is to be in that headset there. Let me ask you a question, Coach. Vic Fangio, believe it or not, has been around forever. And I was telling everybody when I was in Connecticut, you know, my high school coach called me and goes, hey, you know, he was at Milford Academy, and all the Pitt guys used to go up there, Coach. Like Chris Dolman went there. You had a guy, Dwight Stone, who was a running back. And I was going to go there to get my grades up. Then Maryland came in for me before I transferred to Miami. But he goes, don't you remember Vic Fangio was recruiting you from Milford Academy? I'm like, no. He goes, you sat right across the table from him. So then he goes to North Carolina, and he's been in the league forever. Tell me, Coach, what's your take on Vic Fangio and his legacy as a D coordinator in the NFL?
Well, I know Vic. I mean, I've known Vic for years. And when he was the coordinator of the Bears, I went up, you know, I do a lot of Bears work here. So I went up to training camp and OTAs, and we talked and had great conversations. And I'll tell you what Philadelphia is getting, if you look at that Dolphin defense last year, they started off with a new system, kind of feeling their way. And by midstream, before they got crippled with injuries, I think they had 6 starters out, which is unreal. This defense all of a sudden was like a top 10 defense. And the thing that you're going to get with Vic, I think you described it pretty darn close, Danny. You're not going to get a lot of blitz. Will he bring some pressure, some 5-man? Sure he will. But he is more into the front 4 guys, multiple coverages, 2 quarters, 3, little bit of man. And he does not, I tell you what, I don't know big plays, if the Eagles gave up big plays last year or not, but the one thing Vic's going to do, he's going to eliminate the big plays. And we talk about sacks. I think the Dolphins at one point they were second in the league, I think, in sacks behind Baltimore. I mean, they did a great job. Multiple guys had them. But I think that's a great hire for Philadelphia. I really do. He's an old school coach, blue collar guy, toughness. I don't think the environment in Miami really sat well with him.
Yeah, no, and Coach, as you know, when you sit there and you hear guys complaining about, Vic Fangio's style of play or the way he communicated, my comment was good. I don't have to like my coordinator. I just want him to put me in a position to succeed. I mean,
Right.
I want to get home. I mean, this is not about, wins. We'll become really great friends when we win. Nobody's friends when you're losing, right? I mean, nobody's hanging out with each other when you're 4-12.
Right. No, and you know what? That's when people leave. Who's ever coming in new, you wait till the new coordinator. And I don't know the guy. Obviously, he's a good coach, or he wouldn't be where he's at now. I don't know what scheme he's going to use. But whenever you come in new, Danny, as a coordinator, as a position coach, particularly as a head coach, everything is better. Oh, my goodness. I remember when I left the Bears and Curtis Conway, who was my first draft pick out of USC. And Curtis and I, to this day, let me preface this, are very good friends. We did a lot of work together at the Pac-12 when he was doing work out there and I was with Fox. And Curtis, so I leave, and I made a mistake by looking in the paper, and Curtis made the comment, well, they're finally going to take the handcuffs off me and start throwing the ball. I said, okay. Now we fast forward. I'm at the Dolphins, and he's at the Chargers. I'm sorry, San Diego. Yeah, it was the Chargers at the time. And so we're getting ready to play that game down there. It's in San Diego. And I had Sam Madison and Pat Surtain. And they're my two corners. And I said, come here. See that number 80 over there? Just do it. I went back to my Miami days. I said, you run him into the Gatorade table. You do what you got to do. Don't let him. So anyway, we win the game pretty good. And I'm walking across the field to see the other head coach, and Curtis comes up to me and he hugs me and he says, Coach, God, I missed you. Any chance you could get me down there in Miami?
Oh, man.
And I when I saw him out the Pac-12, I told him, I said, I said, I'll tell you what, get you at Miami. And I was a guy that wouldn't, so it's all fun now. But my point goes back to, the Dolphin players, when a new guy comes in, everything is going to be fantastic. And they're going to be saying that about Vic in Philadelphia. So that's just part of the game. You take it for what it's worth and keep moving.
Coach, one thing I'll ask is that I remember when you came into Dallas and you put the 43 in and you put the Canes G-style defense in, and we were trying to teach it to everyone. Randy couldn't get it, so we retired. Ed still hung around. I mean, we had, Danny Noonan was a nose. So you really didn't have the personnel to play that 43. And when you're a guy like Vic and you're coming in and you're kind of changing up what, they do, and it doesn't work right away, how hard is that for them to have blind faith in what you're talking about, not to deviate off that? Because you went 1-15. Think about where you were. You were 1-15, Coach.
Right.
And your guys are sitting there going, and back then everybody was playing to 34. I don't know how you guys didn't go like this. Hey, Jimmy, everyone's doing this now. They got linebackers. They're coming off the perimeter. They're rushing with edge rushers now. How hard is it going to be for him to stick to what he does if this thing doesn't have instant success?
Well, I don't think it will be. I think Vic's got a lot of credibility. I think the players know that. The head coach has to support him. The GM's going to support him. I think the fans in Philly, the tough Philadelphia crowd, I think they're going to like Fangio's no nonsense, no silliness attitude. It's tough, blue collar, Philadelphia type mentality. And I'll tell you, even as they're learning, the one thing that he will do, if he was a big blitz guy, I'd say, oh boy, you're learning there, you're giving up touchdowns. But when you play a lot of zone on the back end and you're not going to – he won't be giving up big plays. Now, if he is, I would say this right now, you don't have good enough players, Dan, because it's not going to be the scheme. The scheme works. The second year when he was at the Bears, when the Bears won the division, they led the I don't know. I know they led the NFC North. I don't know if they led in turnovers. They were top 5 in defense. So he knows what he's doing. And maybe to some degree, some of these players need to be turned over. I don't know. I haven't studied them that close. But if the scheme isn't working, it won't be because it's the scheme. It's going to be, or the coach. It will be because some of these guys just can't do it anymore.
See, to me, I think there's a corner issue. I mean, you know what happened? Coach, and tell me if this is now becoming a philosophy in the league. It's like keep everything underneath, dink and dunk. Don't give up the plus 25. All the things we used to have on the board, Coach, you'd say keep them under 240 yards, 270 yards in total offense. Yep. Keep them under 19 points. Don't give up plus 25s. Do you think that's becoming more of a mentality now in the league where because the linebackers is not really deep pretty much across the road when it comes to the league anymore, tight ends are becoming more important. You got to cover those guys. Do you think it's about keeping everything underneath now and not having a defense like the Ravens of 2000 or those Buck defenses or your defense? Do you think that's the mentality league-wise?
I think I would say no, but I think that when you see teams play against the Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jacksons of the world, they don't want to give up the big play. So everybody's more conscious, and they're playing zone because the quarterback runs. That's what Spags, defensive coordinator for Kansas City, the first half of that Buffalo game, I think Josh Allen had 65 yards. They had about 125. All they were doing now was keeping it in front of them so they could play good coverage, but also take away the quarterback if he started scrambling. And they cut the rushing yards in half and cut the quarterback scrambles. So I think it's if you got a quarterback that runs, I think you'll see more of it.
Coach, it's Super Bowl week, and I want to get some of your takes on this, and some of your memories on this. When I say Super Bowl week, the Dave wants that. What's it mean to you, Coach?
Oh, it means a lot of family and friends had a great time that I can't remember. I mean, and I say that halfway kidding because we were grinding, and we did the physical work back in Dallas, and then we went out there with the mental part because there's so many things going on. But you're unfortunately as a coach, you don't get a chance to truly enjoy the week and the process because you're watching tape and you're double checking things and all this. Then you got obligations that you got to do some things related to the Super Bowl. So it's an exciting time. I mean, we knew where we were at, and we knew what we were playing for, and we knew that you don't get those opportunities very often. So our guys were good. We had the youngest team in the NFL that year, and so they were really as hungry and willing to listen. We didn't have any old timers that have been to, other than Charles Haley, we didn't have guys that had been to Super Bowls before, done anything where all of a sudden our way is not the way they did it before. So it was a good week. We try to keep it just like normal, and the results, it just happened,
Coach, I don't think people really understand who you, Jimmy, Butch, or any of those guys. I used to see, and it was rare when we lost or something, how emotional you guys would get because of the amount of work you put into it. It's one thing for the players to put the work in, and we're emotional too, but man, you guys never looked up, Coach. You never looked up and enjoyed anything you guys were doing. And by the way, Coach Johnson told me a couple of days ago, and I made them work for it. They were the lowest paid assistant coaches in the league when I brought all their asses over here to Dallas. Hey, you think that Washington trip home when we played like shit, and they didn't get any food on the airplane? Aikman's telling me Yeah, we're flying home from Washington. We didn't play very well. And Jimmy goes, they're not eating. There's no dinner. Nobody got dinner. I just don't think you guys really see that guy they see on Fox now. That's not who I knew. That's not the guy I knew. You too. I tell everyone the story. We killed Pitt 38-3. Dave walks in, flips every goddamn gator. You son of a bitches. You turned Ironhead into Dorset. And I'm going like, bro, we won this game, right? You guys aren't the same dudes, man.
Well, no, I mean, obviously we fought that fight, and we moved on. But, yeah, Jimmy, I always sat next to him in the front, next to him on the seat in the plane. And, man, we had a lot of fun. Thank God we won a heck of a lot more than we lost, because those plane rides home when we won, there was nothing funnier or good time. But when we lost, it was just a matter of who he was going after, the players or coaches or stewardesses or flight attendants or the pilot. I didn't know. You never knew.
Coach, I want to show you this, and I showed this to everybody here. This is the first letter that they sent out, Dave and Jimmy, and it was to go to Thousand Oaks. And when those guys started out at Thousand Oaks, that year they were 1-15. Coach, surely you had to be, when you guys saw the last couple of minutes ticking off and you won the Super Bowl, you had to go. You had to think about that first year and that first year out in Thousand Oaks, to how far you guys had come and that the mission was accomplished and what you did. That had to be a moment like that for you.
It was 5 weeks of two-a-days in pads is what we did in Thousand Oaks, Dan, if you remember. 5 weeks. And we gave him a day off. I remember, I'll tell you, one of the most enjoyable guys and professional guys that I've ever had a chance to coach, and you were a teammate of him there for a while, is Ed Too Tall Jones.
Oh, God, I loved Ed.
And I remember that he came into Jimmy's office one morning, and he said, Coach, he said, here's my fine money for breaking curfew, for not showing up, and for getting here, missing the meeting in the morning. He says, I'm going to LA. I'll see you tomorrow at noon. And Jimmy come down and he said, man, I remember him saying, this is the NFL. And apparently once a year at training camp, Too Tall paid the fine up front, even with Coach Landry, and headed to LA and took the night and came back. And so we, it was a learning experience for sure, but so many great memories. And, when you have a young team, the players are willing to work, and Jimmy was great with Too Tall. I mean, he respected him so much. I mean, he's out there running those crazy-ass gassers with you guys that we ran, and 16 110s. Oh. And nobody knew how tall Too Tall was. I mean, how old he was. To this day,
he was 38 years old, I think, running those 16 110s. And I'll tell everyone, hey, it's 16 110s, and the big guys have to make it 19 seconds with 19 seconds break, and the other guys are 17 and 17. And let me tell you something. In my time, 4 years being with them guys, pro and college, I never made it once. I mean, that thing was I remember Coach going like this, asthma Fields over there. He told some Clemson kid who was a tight end. I think you guys drafted him in the 3rd round. He kicked him off the team. We're all sitting there. Danny Noonan goes, what? I go, hey, you got to make these 110s, man. By the way, they'll look at you okay if you miss 1 or 2, and they'll rerun you in them. But if you miss half of them, dude, don't do that. Drum will look at me and go, oh, my God, 110s. He would be so afraid of those things. Now, hey, by the way, his birthday was yesterday, Jerome's.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, good. Doesn't get any better.
Hey, Coach, finally, who do you like Sunday? 49ers or Chiefs?
You know what? You know how I look at this thing? I believe, and this is all my opinion, that San Francisco has the best talent. They got the best players as a group on all levels. In other words, pass rushers, linebackers, secondary guys, running back, receiver, tight end. I mean, talent-wise, they're the team. But I'll tell you what Kansas City does. Kansas City has the best coaches that make in-game adjustments of anybody in the league. We talked about the thing with Spags, what he did in the Buffalo game of going from man to zone and this and that and shutting them down. And you look what Andy Reid did last year. That Super Bowl game against the Eagles, they were they were down by 10. Philadelphia's winning. Mahomes got a hurt ankle, and they're playing the number 1 sack team. And I promise you, the Philly said they're going to come out and throw the ball. Mahomes can't scramble. He's hurt. Let's just put our ears back, and here we go. And what does Andy Reid do? He starts handing it to Pacheco and handing it to Pacheco and handing it to Pacheco. And Philly mentally, physically, they weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for it. And so last week, I mean, and Patrick Mahomes has finally, in my opinion, turned that corner where Tom Brady was. I remember doing the Super Bowl for Fox, Danny, when New England played Seattle out in Arizona. And Tom threw 7 passes in a row that were 4 yards or less. Boom. They were playing, our quarters coverage. They were playing the umbrella over the top. Boom. So I'm watching that game last week against Baltimore. And after the game, Harbaugh said it. Baltimore's defensive scheme, I thought, was great. They were not going to give Mahomes the big shot. And Kelsey had their longest pass, I know, coming out of the half, 21 yards. But Baltimore was counting on their offense, scoring points, not turning it over 3 times. But so what was Patrick Mahomes? I'm sitting there watching this saying, he's throwing Kelsey a 2-yard pass. He throws the check down to the back. He doesn't even look down the field, 3 yards. Kelsey, 4-yard pass. And I'm saying to myself, this is Tom Brady. This kid gets it. He understands the big picture. And when your quarterback understands what you got to do to win, Danny, from a defense, a special team. So when he gets the big picture, man, they're tough to beat. And that's where Kansas City is with Mahomes. To answer your question, I have not made my bet yet. It's going to be a tough one, because talent in games like this, you got to believe that San Francisco is going to make a big play, in my opinion, to win the game. But I don't know. I hate betting against Reid and betting against Mahomes. I'm not ready to make that decision yet.
Coach, I'm going to end it with this. I was watching, and Joe Buck asked me a question. He was doing an interview with Coach Johnson. And I haven't asked Jimmy this, but I'll ask you this. They singled out me, Irvin, and Jerome for being like kind of crazy guys that were on those teams. And they were like, and Jimmy goes like this. He goes, that swagger wasn't really there before you guys showed up. It was kind of like our group, that 85, 86, 87 guys that really started that. And I heard him, and Jimmy's like, he was talking about how proud he was of how we could be focused all the time. I know we weren't all the time, but in games we were the least penalized team most of the time every year. Why did you guys let us do all that stuff? And you let us get away. I mean, again, I'm not, folks, I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about the way we talked shit to people, the way we intimidated people. You guys never had a problem with that, but today's coaches would have a problem, and coaches back then had problems like Holtz and those guys. Why did you let us do all that stuff? And you guys never came down on us for that, ever. Yeah. I don't ever remember going, hey, you might want to shut up. I'm telling Bosworth he's the most overrated player in the country. Jerome saying something else about someone else. Switzer looks like a fool over there with that cigarette in his mouth. We're just doing this before games. You guys never cared. Why?
Well, Dan, I think we did. Okay, we just never said it.
Okay, this is an epiphany. Okay,
we never. At least me, I never said anything. But no, you know what? And it really started with Jimmy. He wanted. He just always believed that if you couldn't be you and your personality, that you would not, and to play great football, it's an emotional game, and you got to be all in. And if you feel like you can't be yourself emotionally, you're not going to be as good a player as you can be. So I think Jimmy understood that, and he, now nobody was ever. If you were late for a plane, you weren't going. You know that. If you were late for practice, you weren't starting. You were going to be running laps. So I mean, we had a disciplined team, as you said.
Yeah.
But yet, we had a lot of fun.
Hey, Coach, we were in Pittsburgh. I have Alonzo Highsmith there, and a bunch of rookie guys, or a lot younger guys, are sitting there. Russell, maybe, and some of these other guys. When we went up, I think it was West Virginia, because back then you had to fly into Pitt and you had to bus 3 hours into Morgantown. It was a pain in the ass. And I remember me and Alonzo start laughing. All of a sudden, I see this guy coming from the front of the he comes from the front of the line, and it was our grub line, and he starts coming back there. He looks at the young players. This is a business trip. I will put your asses in a cab and send you home. And then he's looking at them, and then he looks at Alonzo and me, and he goes, and that means everyone. And I went like this. Okay. We were on them trips, man. They were not friendly trips, dude. I mean, you know what? It's funny, Coach. All the shit we talked and all the fun we had, I don't think people behind the scenes realize how many guardrails we had set up. We had to do a lot of things to get to that and to make what that program was and what that program's reputation was. Well, we had a lot of guardrails to get through to make that happen. So you guys were awesome to us, man. And you know what? And I say this to you, Coach. You guys have treated me the same since I was 19 years old. And I'm in my early 60s now. You've never changed. You guys were the same people that you are today. And I told Coach Campo that. I Coach Wise that. Everyone. I tell them, man, you guys never changed. You were genuine coaches, and that's why you guys had massive success.
Well, I think players can see through it if you're not. And sooner or later, they realize that you're not being sincere, and it catches up with you. But we're just happy. Jimmy and I talk about you all the time. He says, you're going to go on and do that damn Sileo show. And I says, yeah, if I can help Danny out. I says, we were talking what a great it is that you're such a success and doing such an awesome job. And that makes us feel good too, Dan.
Absolutely, Coach. The only coach I never really liked, and I don't think you guys did, and I won't comment any further, I never got David Shula. Coach, I leave it there. I love you, Coach. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you down the line, Coach.
All right, Danny. Anytime, buddy. Bye-bye.
You got it. That's our good friend, Coach Wannstedt. Absolutely sensational to me. And I say this to you guys. Seriously, man, all those coaches, when I was 19 years old, and all these guys that came from broken homes and all that, and these guys knew exactly what they were dealing with at all times. And it was really a great staff. And it didn't shock me that all those guys went on to Dallas and had the massive success they had, because they were thick as thieves. These guys put the Herschel Walker deal together that made all the things happen. They were talent evaluated. I'll tell you what, my program struggles now. My program struggles right now with, guess what? Talent evaluating. Butch, Dave, every one of those guys that were on that staff were not just play calling DCs or D-line coaches. These guys could spot a guy like Cortez Kennedy and go, this kid's a superstar. And then spot a guy like Russell Maryland, who had two scholarship offers to some place like Toledo and Miami. These guys are phenomenal guys, man. Just sensational. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the Oz. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Please hit the like button. We appreciate Coach Wannstedt coming on with us, man. Thank you very much again. Yeah, this the side conversation we're having here. I don't think it's a reach that coach. I don't think it's a reach if a head coach has to work on personality skills like Belichick. That when you hear that a DC like Sean Desai has communication issues. Get this, Sean Desai as a coordinator, this is probably why they kept him in the building. He's pretty fundamentally sound when it comes to what the scheme is. Hey, and for the record, did you hear what Coach Wannstedt said? Get this now. Howie Roseman is on the clock. I wonder if Vic Fangio was a Jeffrey Lurie hire. Did you guys hear what Dave Wannstedt said about him? Worked with him up in Chicago. Known him for years. Vic Fangio is not going to fail in Philadelphia because of his scheme and because of what he wants to accomplish. The problem will be the players in the building. That puts your boy finally on the hot seat. Dude, Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat is a joke. Howie Roseman's ass should be on the hot seat. And I mean, get this. This could be the beginning of redefining his roles again. Howie Roseman, you want to give him an extension for all the deals that he cuts? I have no problem with that. You want to give Howie Roseman a contract extension because of all the shitty draft picks he has done? That I'm not good with. That guy's roles are too broad. He has too big of a sandbox, and they need to taper that in if they want to have, as Jeff Kerr says, consistent success. Howie's incapable. He's incapable of maintaining a successful roster year in and year out. You know why? Because of his failures in the draft. Case closed. Every single time he makes a mistake out of Derek Barnett or a Andre Dillard or a Jalen Reagor, every time he makes mistakes on that and covers it with big money, and get this, it's not like he's missing on a right guard. Tyler Steen's not going to kill you when it comes to your salary cap if you go out and sign a guy. But what kills you is when you sign AJ. Hey, let me say this to you here about AJ Brown. Has AJ Brown been an important part of the Philadelphia Eagles the last 2 years? Has he been an important part? Has he been an important part of the team's success the last 2 years? I think he's had more personal success than he's had team success. Roland goes, of course. Okay. Well, at the same time, Roland, the money you pay him has been a detriment to your team. It's made you top heavy. That's a fact. Anytime you pay free agents like Reddick 15, here, look at the money you spend just in people that you've had to acquire for your mistakes. 14 million. Let's go average the last 3 years with Slay. Okay, 3 years times there's 12. There's $42 million that you've played Darius Slay over the last 3 years. Last 2 years, you paid $50 million to AJ. That's $92 million. Reddick, you've paid $30 million. I'm just using these players. That's $125 million in 3 players that you've made to cover your mistakes. $125 million in the last 3 years. That if you drafted rookies and they all hit, or they were functional starters, that number would pale in comparison to the 125 you spent. And that's why your defense is untooled right now, and you don't have any money this offseason to make any moves. My prediction, once again, you're not fixing that because of Vic Fangio's scheme. You're not fixing that because you don't have the money and the capacity when it comes to evaluating talent to fix all the spots that you've been deficient in. You're not good at picking backers. You're not good at picking safeties, and you're not good at picking corners. This is not an opinion. This has been an absolute fact. Now, could this possibly change? Will Vic have some say in the type of personnel that's going to be drafted in April? Get this. You're not going to have the money to spend in free agency on quality players. You're just not. You're not going to have that cash. You've got to nail the draft. You have now, get this, you have now squeezed the accordion down to this: little money and a lot of work. That's where you are now. We could have DK and Justin Jefferson and Parsons, but nope. Had to draft Devontae because of the Reddick pick. True. That's a great. Hey, Nick. So if you land on Michael Parsons, you know what you're paying him? You're paying him rookie money. You would have had Jefferson. You're right. You would have had Jefferson in your offense. Justin Jefferson in your offense versus AJ. I'll take Justin Jefferson over AJ Brown any day. And he's cheap. And I would have had him for 3 years on a rookie deal. So I would have had Parsons and Jefferson on 3 years of a rookie deal. Instead, I'm paying $35 million over the last couple of years here for Hassan Reddick, and I'm spending $50 million on A.J. Brown because I fucked up in the draft. And that's why you don't have any money. They're not very good. at rectifying their problems in the draft. And dude, get this. Let's do this here. How do you think the 9th and the 13th pick have done for you in the last 2 years at D tackle? Give me a grade. Give me a grade on that. The 9th and 13th pick. Now, remember, they're rookie contracts. It's cheap. That's A+. That's an A+. Okay? It's an A+. And remember, I'm not looking for all pros. I'm looking for functional starters that help me win games. Has Jordan Davis helped you win games? I would make this point to you. In 34 football games that Jordan Davis has played in, or around that number, 30, he's probably given you 8 games. Is that return on investment? I don't know. I'd say this to you. Jalen Carter has given more production. He's probably given you 12 games of really good football. 12 and a half good games. That's why his ceiling is a little higher. Because you see it. And the problem, again, you hear people talking about with Davis, man, this guy looks like he's got a lot of it. Never lived up to it. He's never lived up to his enormous talents that he has. He's never. Just never. Corey Clement, TJ Edwards, Reed Blankenship, and Eli Ricks were all undrafted. Okay? And the guys you drafted were all bombs. And then when you were in a position to pay a kid that you developed, that you found in Edwards, you passed. That's you wasted money. Think about what you did with TJ Edwards. Okay? Think about what you did with Edwards. You found a kid with no money. You're paying him $1.5 million. You found him. You developed him. You gave him a starting role. And when it came time to reward him, you passed on him. Why? Why'd you pass on a guy you spent money, tireless hours developing him? You coached him. And when his contract came up, you said, no, can do. Or you didn't even offer him. Nothing. Why? Why? Has anyone asked that question with your phenomenal Philly media? Why didn't you ask that question? I think somebody should ask this question too to Howie. Hey, are these new coordinators and new coaches that are coming in, are they going to be evaluating some of the players in the draft? Because obviously you guys can't do it. Do I think Tyler Sting will be a good player? Maybe. Is he better than Jack Driscoll? I don't know. And like I said in the first hour about Fletcher, that's a $10 million decision that I'm not going to make. So you bring in another tackle in? Dude, you got to get off the nipple eventually. It's time to move on from Fletcher Cox. I hate to say this. It's time. You're overpaying him. $7 million you need on a linebacker is Fletcher Cox's salary. Draft a kid in the draft. You're pretty good there at DT anyway. Get another kid next to Milton. Or sign a Sue type of guy. Who could be out there that could fit that role at $3 million and give you production? There's got to be some D tackles out there like that. It's time to move on. He's not a $10 million guy. His market value is not $10 million. At 34, you've got to get off that, paying older dudes. I don't know what we're going to do about Reddick's $21 million cap. They've got to address that. They've got to address that. They've got to. Chris Jones. 19, let's see here. What's 2023 AAV mean? Because Chris Jones makes $30 million now. He signed a one-year, $28 million deal. Okay? I mean, he's not making 19.5. He's making 20. Their 2024 annual average salary. Okay. So they must have given him, Tone. They must have given him the signing bonus, and that his base is 19.5. Okay, I got it. So Fletcher's salary is $10 million. Let me see these other guys down here. Justin Jones. See, this is where they need to be at Quentin Jefferson. How old is he? He's 34. Ugh, it's a little old. There's one right there. Christian Wilkins. Miami. Played with Fangio too. And he's at 3.8. That's somebody to look at. That's someone to look at. That kid Gaines isn't bad. And he's 26. That's 3.5 he made. Look at Linville. Played up in Buffalo. He's 35-2. Man, I like him. He's just way too long in the teeth. Yeah. See, when you start looking at some of these guys down here, these are some of the guys that you start looking at to bring in to help the younger players out, like Milton. And hey, Tone, keep that list so when you come on at the bottom of the hour at 4:30, let's take a time. I want to do that. We're going to do that at the bottom because, look, and by the way, I want to make this clear for people. I am not telling you that Fletcher Cox can't play. He just can't play for me at 10. He can't keep playing old guys. Graham and Fletcher are gone at the salaries they're making. One, I need the roster spots, and they're not $10 million guys. Just not. You save, get a rookie, get a D tackle on a rookie deal in the third round. You got a third one. By the way, it's not an indictment that you want to get younger and you want to get cheaper so that, get this, you could take, if you got rid of Fletcher Cox and you took that $10 million, you can get yourself a D tackle in the third round at around $1 million or $1.5 million base salary. And you could take the rest of that money and spread it into your linebacker free agency, or you can sign a safety and get a quality safety and be a player in the market. Because the money you have now, you don't have it. You have $20 million in cap space. And like I said, you really only have 2. Now, Sills, they're going to restructure. I know they're going to. They have to. Because they can't do anything. By the way, one more time here. This is not an opinion. This is where you are today. And, I love when people go, hey, Sills, what about this free agent out here? What about this free agent? What about this guy in the draft? Well, shit, guys, it's going to cost you money. Always start with money. Look at how many positions you have. Of your 22 starters, both your safeties have to be replaced. Hey, do you think you have some guys back there that can play? I'm not banking on anybody starting and being functional back there. I want Reed Blankenship to be my third guy. I don't want him to be my second dude. I think both your corners have to be replaced. You're not going to replace both your corners. You're going to draft a corner. Maybe you move off of one guy and you get killed on one. That's 3. Both your linebackers, you've got to get 2 functional linebackers in the middle. You got to get a Mike and you've got to get a Will. That's 5 guys so far. You need another edge rusher to replace Brandon Graham. Then on top of that, you're going to need 2 more functionally backups because you're moving off of Fletcher. That's pretty much like you got like 7 guys you're going to have to replace at the 11, plus 2 swing tackles you're going to have to. And by the way, you're going to need depth at linebacker. You have no depth. You need 10 to 12 players on defense for you to retool that defense to be somewhat respectable. Just telling you, where you get that money from? You don't. You're going into the draft. And you're going to try to do it in the draft, which you're not good at corner, safety, and edge. I'm telling you, unless they change the way they do business, and that was some of the questions that we asked, unless they change the way they do business, they're not fixing this. They're going to go like this, like they did after the 17 Super Bowl. They're going to go downhill, and then they're going to go back up again. Then they're going to go downhill. Then they're going to go back up again. They're going to go downhill. You know the difference between Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles? The Eagles don't stay down as long as other teams do. It's a 1 or 2 year proposition on being way down, but then they skyrocket themselves back up again. But they're never this. They're this. They go up, and dude, the Eagles as an organization, like 2022, you shot up. 2023 and 4, you're going to crash. You have already crashed. I mean, you're replacing the entire coaching staff, all your coordinators, and the coach is almost fired. That's crashing internally. Get this, the only thing that people will look at, and it gives the Eagles some saving. Hey, the Eagles act like they are a 5-win team right now this offseason. 5-win teams replace all their coaches. Okay? Hey, Tone. I just got a text from Gary Cobb. So, hey, Tone, let's see if we can connect with Gary Cobb if you can. Okay, connect with Gary Cobb if you can, and see if we can get him on at 4:30, and then we'll drop you on right after if we can do that. Is that cool? So, we'll put him on at 4:30 here because he's in Phoenix now. He's okay. Yeah, right, Tone. Let's do 4:30. Let's take a time out here, and we'll talk to Gary Cobb. He's in Phoenix. We'll get his takes, and then we're going to talk. Me and Tone are going to talk at 5:30 about about what to do and where to go, and some of the question marks that we'll have for the Eagles that are coming up over the next couple months. So let's take a time out. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
EAGLEX Eagles.
A little bit of producing on the fly there. Gary Cobb's in Phoenix on his way to the Super Bowl, and we will talk to him at 4:30. And my good friend is going to be the Mariano Rivera or the Jonathan Papelbon of closers for us at 5:30 Eastern, and we will talk with him. So we look forward to this, man. Really a great start to the Super Bowl week. And I thought it was very interesting on what Dave Wannstedt said. Dave said that this is not going to be a situation, okay, where, you know, Vic's going to fail, okay, because of his scheme. He's one of the most respected defensive coordinators, in his opinion, that is in the league. And the coaches that he's bringing in, Dave texted me, said some of the coaches that they're bringing in, there's no question Vic has a complete say in what's going on here with the type of D coordinator he is and the kind of D-line coaches and linebacker coaches. You're probably going to get better coaching here than what you've had over the last couple of years, especially on the defensive side, okay? So you're probably going to get a little bit better. You're clearly going to have more direction when it comes to this. And I believe that you now have put your GM on the line. This is going to be really a Howie Roseman offseason. You listen, getting Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio is well and good. But if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes and the way to put those guys in a position to succeed, you're going to have problems here, and it's going to come back. And believe me, I think the owner may have something to do with this. Jonathan Gannon was good when you look at everything he did. He had 2 years with basically the same players. Forrest, I think what happened is that both Gannon and Steichen put their formula in. The Eagles liked it. And I think they asked other coaches to coach those schemes. And they realized they couldn't do that. Because let's take a look at this. They thought that maybe Nick's influence and what went on last year, he could have covered for that. When they realized he can't, what did they do? They went out and hired all these guys. Actually, they went out and hired 2 guys to fill a staff. They're counting on Kellen Moore to put offensive coaches in the building, and they're counting on Vic Fangio to put defensive coaches in the building. They're not counting on Nick Sirianni to put people in the building. They're just not. Gary Cobb's going to join us from Fox 29 here in a couple minutes at the bottom of the hour here, and we're going to talk with him, and we'll get his takes on everything going on here, and especially what we've seen, and especially the comments that are being made about Sean Desai now. This thing's really picking up a lot of steam here. I just went over to my Twitter page, and people are like this now. It makes sense. Is that Sean Desai had communication skills. And the communication skills he had, the players were not digging it. And the players were not connecting with him. They had problems with him. And they had problems in the building with him. It got to a point where the corners weren't talking. And Hassan Reddick stopped talking to him. And then it got to a point where Nick had to do something because it had festered in the locker room, and it was a cancer. It was dividing. Sean decided to get this. The way I read that is that Sean Desai divided the team. It wasn't Nick. Nick made the poor move because there was no – think about it. Who else would you have put in that role as D coordinator that's in that building? You let Denard Wilson go. You didn't really have any – who are you going to put? Tracy Rocker? He had never been in that role before. They were almost forced to make that move to go to Patricia. It totally makes sense now. I personally think that Howie didn't want to make that move. I think maybe now Nick didn't want to make that move. But what was the alternative for them to try to right the ship, because the players were in a what? They were in a revolt. I can't wait to get JAKIB on here and tell him what we heard here. And JAKIB's in Phoenix right now. And let's bring him up if we can, as soon as we can here, when we can connect here with him. And we'll get with him here in a second and get his thoughts, because, boy, if you had a mutiny there, let's bring JAKIB up while we can. Gary, man, thank you for taking a little bit of time here with us. I want to throw something at you that's now going around here about Sean Desai.
Okay.
Sean Desai was replaced because there were players in the locker room, Gary, like Hassan Reddick and Darius Slay and others who weren't talking to him. There was a kind of a mutiny that his communication skills were not going along, and this was the reason that Nick had to make the move, because there were no other options but to go to Patricia, who had been in that role. It kind of makes more sense now that you hear that, Gary, that his communication skills and his issues were dealing with the players. There's a report in one of the team meetings, Gary, that he said, yeah, we got players in here that are on their own page. I won't name any names. And this was in a defensive meeting that he had done that. What's your takeaway on that?
Well, when these type of things, didn't come out right away, it starts coming out, always take it with a grain of salt, because, everybody's got their version of what happened. And clearly something like that had to have happened, because, look at the way the team, there was no fire. Guys are not, playing with emotion. I mean, especially defensively, you got to play it with emotion. And you didn't see that. And you just saw a team that, was 10-1 to go into such a fall where you lose 6 out of 7 games. And not that you just lost the games, but it's like there's nobody angry, nobody fiery about it, nobody emotional. Something like that had to have happened. And I don't think that, it's just one-sided. Like, see, when something like that happens, people have their different versions. And a lot of times somebody has to step in and clean it up. And, the head coach, he's got to ultimately have something to say about this and step in and go, hey, look, I don't care what happened. We got to patch this up. We're on the same side. Can't be fighting each other. But that clearly something like that happened for this team to just fade away. And, you wonder, like, what is going on? I mean, guys are not. Do you see you just ruining the whole season? And that was an embarrassing performance. Like, how many of the games were embarrassing performances? The last game, of course, against Tampa Bay, where you get blown out by Tampa Bay. You got, Baker Mayfield looking like he's going to the Hall of Fame. What's going on? And then you got before that, you're losing to awful teams, the Giants, nothing to play for. They blow you out. You're down 24-0 at the half. I mean, that's like a team that's getting ready to get the first pick. I mean, they played that poorly. So that's discouraging. So something like that had to happen.
Absolutely. Gary, I know you're at the airport, so we'll make this a little shorter. So we'll give you a couple more here. I had Dave Wannstedt on last hour. And this is what he said about Vic Fangio, because he works with the Bears up there in their broadcast team. And, of course, he was the former head coach, and we both know Dave very well. He said this, that Vic Fangio's schemes are not going to fail. when he comes to Philly. He's one of the most respected guys, and it looks like he's been given a lot of autonomy on the assistant coaches that he's bringing in, position coach-wise, D-line, linebacker, safeties, all those kind of coaches, secondary coaches. He said that he will not fail. It'll be the personnel that will fail if this scheme, because he did a really good job up in Chicago. He's been well known for being able to be a great war guy when it comes to that statistic and that metric. Do you agree that if this thing doesn't work with Vic Fangio, this is a personnel issue? It's not a schematic issue.
Yeah, I would probably say so. Yeah, you can see that he's solid. His whole idea of playing the game. Now, some people don't agree with it because he's not as aggressive with the blitzes and everything. But with his schemes, his schemes are solid. I mean, and you cannot make it a habit of giving up big plays and expect to win in the NFL. You're just not going to do that. So his whole mentality of his game, the key is going to be the players being able to, have the type of focus to take in the system, to know exactly what it is that they're trying to do. That's going to be the big emphasis. And I know he's quite a teacher, from what I hear. So, you're going to get that. So that's what I see as going to be the key. And it's going to be exciting to see what happens.
Last question for you, Gary. I know you got to run here. Do you think, again, now that things are starting to come out here at the end about Desai, maybe this is not uncommon, because sometimes head coaches, look at Bill Belichick's bedside manner, or even take a look at Chip Kelly's bedside manner. When you're inexperienced, it's one thing to be a position coach, as you know. It's another thing to be a coordinator of the entire unit in all three levels. You think that this is just maybe, if these comments are true and they're more important to what happened this year, to the collapse, can that be a function of just being inexperienced as a coordinator and not really having it? That one thing he's just got to do, he's got to just work on his his people skills.
Well, going up to the pro level, especially you've got, the players that you're playing, that you got out there. You've got guys that have already had great accomplishments on the NFL level. Here you are coming in, you don't have those accomplishments. You don't have that kind of a resume. You can be somewhat insecure, but I think the thing you got to do is say, hey, look, this is the way we're going to do it. You got to be confident. And it seems like he didn't have the kind of, marquee type of whatever, the type of personal strength to get these guys in line, or he didn't sell it to them enough, and you have got to go in and sell your system to the players. And maybe, the guys weren't buying in, and clearly there was some type of disruption. And still, even if you say that side of it happened, there were people in the organization that were involved that really didn't say they were involved. But, that was just not Nick Sirianni just made that call. Who's kidding who? That everybody was involved because they knew it was important. The whole thing is they were trying to make too many changes. If he came in and kept the same system, but you start making guys play two gap that were playing gap, now all of a sudden they play in a completely different game. That did not go because the guys weren't able to absorb all of that quickly enough, and they wound up out there playing slow and uncertain. And you can't play defense unless you're aggressive and sure about what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. Gary, I appreciate your time. I know you're at the airport right now. Thank you so much, my friend. It should be very interesting. Oh, by the way, who do you got in Super Bowl Sunday? Who do you got? Chiefs or 49ers?
I got to go Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs, that doggone, and the guy that I single out is Spagnuolo. He's doing a tremendous job on that defense. I think they're going to get after the young fella, that young quarterback. I think they're going to be showing him all kind of different looks, and they're going to be hitting him from all kind of ways. And I think that ultimately is going to be the game. And then you'll have Mahomes make a few plays, and I think that's what it's going to be. But I got to go with the Chiefs, man. Those guys, they're getting it done. Defensively, they got the best defense in football, man.
Oh, and no, Spagnuolo has done a spectacular job. Gary, thank you, my friend.
All right. Hey, have a good one.
You got it. Always finds time for us, no matter where it is. Special guy, one of my dear friends. Tone, I'll tell you what, man. Let's get you on there at 4:45. And we'll how about 4:45? Does that sound right? What do you think? 4:45, and we'll sweep the top of the hour. We'll go that route there. We'll do that. Okay, so we'll do that at 4:45, and we'll get him on. I think it's going to be an interesting time here, man. I really do. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
EAGLES. Eagles.
So Brock Purdy's 18-3 in the last 2 years. And people are calling him a game manager. I don't know why quarterbacks or people get aggravated with that take. Who gives a shit? If some media dork puts a tag on a guy, calls him a game manager. I don't believe in that. I don't believe there's anything such. There's nothing. I call it good coaching and players that can execute. They got to work hand in hand. Hey, how good of a coach was Kyle Shanahan when he had Trey Lance? He wasn't. But when he had guys who could understand his system and guys who could understand that they can execute it and guys who understood what he was talking about, they executed it. He can't operate by himself with just some stiff. He proved that. And by the way, he proved the fact in the fact that he wasted 3 ones on the guy. He wasted 3 ones on a dude because you know what he did? He did something that Howie does. He went over his skis, thought he was a personnel guy, thought that was the type of style quarterback he wanted, and at the end of the day, he don't know what he's doing. He needed to get it. I'll tell you what, a guy like Mac Jones probably plays well in his system. You bring Mac Jones to San Francisco, probably does a great job for him. guys who can and are smart, that are savants, that listen, have a lot of players. Hey, do I think Brock Purdy could carry a football team by himself like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? Absolutely not. Do I think Brock Purdy's like Jalen Hurts? They need a ton of players around him to succeed? Yeah. Dude, Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts are the same guy. They just got different skill sets. Both teams are loaded offensively. What's the difference? Jalen doesn't carry that team by himself either. Brock Purdy doesn't either. I mean, and by the way, you're asking the quarterback in Philly to do less. Look, okay. Purdy's doing his job. So's Jalen. But they're asking Jalen to do shit that he's not great at. See, what makes Jalen a really good passer is the fear factor he has when he runs the ball. Look, I'm awake. Are you goes like this. Say what? Why? He's 18-3. He's been to 2 straight NFC championship games, and now he's 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl. Okay? What does he do different that Jalen does better than? What does he do? What does Jalen Hurts do better than Brock Purdy? Run? Well, they don't want him to run. What does he do better? Is he more accurate? He's not. Does he throw more touchdown passes? He doesn't. Does he have a ton of players in San Fran? He does. So does Hurts. He's got 2 years in a row. You got 2,000-yard receivers. You got a tight ends that are pretty compatible. You got a better O-line than Purdy does. What are you talking about? That's right. I'd put Hurts in right. Okay? Purdy and Hurts are kind of the same. Look at check it out. Let's do this. Let's do this just for concept here. I don't care you don't like what I just said. It's too bad. It's the facts. Actually, he's won more games than you in the last 2 years. And get this, he's done just as much as Hurts. Your guy hasn't done more than him. He hasn't. He's in a Super Bowl too now. Look at this. Oh, person goes, Purdy's got happy feet in the pocket. What does Hurts have? He was blitzed more than anybody, and he was the worst at it. You guys don't like the truth. You guys just don't like the truth. Personally, I think him and Jalen are the same. Oh, no, wait. I'll take that back. Purdy's probably better because he's got better coaching. He's got better coaching. And we'll see if that could change this year. Let's take a look at this. So Brock Purdy's at 68.7 in quarterback completion percentage. This last year, he was 69.4. What was Hurts? About 66? 65? This year, he threw for 42.80. So get this. In 21 starts, Brock Purdy has 56.54 in passing yards with only 600 attempts. And he's 17-4 in the regular season. And in 2 years, he's thrown 44 touchdowns. Let's see, what did Jalen throw in 3 years? This last year, I think it was 24? Last year was 23, 47, and then the year before that, at 21. So Purdy in 1 year less has thrown almost as many touchdown passes as Hurts has. And you got 2,000-yard receivers. Again, I'm not trying to diminish Jalen here. I'm trying to make a point. Both guys are asked to do the same thing to get to the same place. They just do it differently. It's not a rip. And Purdy doesn't turn the ball over as much as Jalen did. Now, is 2023 an anomaly in his career? I think it is. Okay? Hey, Death Row, I saw them blitzing. I saw them blitzing in the Pro Bowl. Hey, Death Row, I'm like this. What the hell's going on with Ray Lewis and that? I thought you weren't supposed to blitz and they're playing flag football. I'm with you, man. Okay? I'm with you. Purdy wasn't scared. He bounced back next game. Okay? He has Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, who is awesome. Jalen has AJ, Devontae, and Dallas Goedert, and a Pro Bowl running back, too, also. I mean, Yale. And he's got a better O-line, Hurts. Hurts has the better offensive skilled people and the better O-line. You've got 4 Pro Bowlers. I mean, you got 4 Pro Bowl talent in the O-line. You know who the 3rd rated left tackle was in the NFL? Jordan Mailata, according to Pro Football Focus. So you got Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, and Lane. You got 4 of the 5 guys in your O-line. Some of the highest paid, and 4 of the 5 are Pro Bowlers. Hurts is a better player? What do you mean Hurts is a better player? Where? What is your example of that? What's your sample of that? I'm awake or you that he's a better player. What has he done that's better? Run the ball more? Oh, fantastic. I agree. But they don't want him to do that anymore. Dude, is Jalen Hurts more of a weapon than Brock Purdy? Yeah. When the fear factor of him and that RPO's in the game, like in the 5th quarter, Buffalo, he's a scary guy. When they take that away from him, he's not. The element of that is what makes his passing better. I personally think he was a better passer in 22 than in 23. He was a better passer. Why? Dude, I didn't give a shit about him throwing the football. I gave a shit more about him when he was on 3rd and 11. You guys are taking this as an insult to Jalen. When you got a guy who's 17-4, 2 NFC title games, he's in the Super Bowl, and he finished 2nd in the MVP voting, just like your guy. It's not an insult. He just happened to have a better season. It's not an insult to Jalen. I think it's an insult to call that guy a game manager when he's being asked to do and he's succeeding. All right. Again, these are 2 different approaches. They look completely different. Hey, if Jalen was still running the ball effectively like he did in 22, would I go like this? Who would you rather have as your quarterback and moving the sticks? Well, am I going to get 2022 Hurts? Yes. Okay, I'll take that. If you're going to give me 23 Hurts, I'll take Purdy. He turns the ball over less. He's got the same talent, pretty much. I think Philly has more. Play caller's better. All right. Let's get to Tone here. Here on this Monday as we are all week.
Big Sales, how we doing, sir?
You understand what I'm saying here, Tone? I'm not ripping Jalen here. I'm talking about 2 guys that do things. They drive 2 different cars. One drives a truck, an F-150, and another guy drives a Ferrari. But they still get to the same place.
Yeah, they both play the position very differently. I've come to the point, just speaking about Brock Purdy, independent of anybody else, just acknowledging what I've been seeing all year and acknowledging and also coupling that with what I saw last year. The reality is, no matter if we like it or not, and again, this is independent of anyone else, Brock Purdy in the vacuum, he's been executing at a very high level. And we have to acknowledge that. and we have to be real with ourselves about that. Because Brock Purdy is executing on a high level, that doesn't take away from Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely not.
The reality is Jalen Hurts has to go back in the lab and change the narrative. He did not have a strong 2023 campaign. That's the reality. And I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. And I would choose Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy because obviously he's an Eagles quarterback, but I think his game is more dynamic. And obviously, if you incorporate the running element,
Okay.
He's a
Okay. Well, when you incorporate the running,
I
he
have
is
to because
dynamic.
I have to
doesn't
because
incorporate the running. I disagree. I don't believe he's dynamic.
Here's the thing: it's called football, not passball. So the reality is.
Did you really think he was as dynamic as he was in 22?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is Jalen Hurts has to change the narrative. In 2023, he did not execute at the same high level as he did in 2022. If you look at Jalen Hurts' numbers, you'll look at him and say, "Wow, this guy had a pretty decent season." Up until you get to the turnovers and you say, "Okay, what went wrong?" So I think that's the major blemish. Sorry about that sound. That's the major blemish on Jalen Hurts in the 2023 season. Again, right? Although the season didn't end the way the season didn't end the way we wanted to, we got to be honest. He turned the ball over 20 times, basically 19 to be exact, but I say 20 because it's right there. So he turned the ball over 20 times. That
He'll
cannot
never do that
happen,
again.
and I don't think he will do that again. So as of right now, again, I can acknowledge Brock Purdy is executing at a high level and give him credit without taking away from Jalen Hurts, and I don't think that's what you're doing. I think
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think you're just saying, look.
I'm just saying they're two different guys that are doing the same result on getting teams in the winning positions.
Yeah,
and that it just looks different. And if you're going to call Brock Purdy a game manager, you got to do the same.
Both quarterbacks. See, I even hate the term game manager because
I despise that.
Every quarterback is managing a game.
And it's their system. It's the Jalen Hurts Philadelphia Eagles system. They tailored that system to Brock Purdy. Now, I will concede this. Does it look a little like Garoppolo's system? It does. There's a tad bit more checkdowns. So they kind of maybe wobbled it a little bit.
I think they learned. I think they realized.
Yes.
I think
Garoppolo protected it more.
Yeah. I think
Jimmy G. Yes.
Yeah, I think everything that they're doing for Brock Purdy, they realized we should have did that for Jimmy G.
Yes, sir.
But I also believe Brock Purdy is a better decision maker than Jimmy G. That's what I do think. I do too.
I don't think you see a lot of footballs being thrown into the middle of the chest.
Yeah,
linebackers like you still see it, but I think that's inexperience and still not. He's still such a young player that'll improve. But that thing with Garoppolo never improved because you can count on Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the ball to the hands of somebody and giving them an opportunity at an interception.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think both quarterbacks are literally two of the best up and coming quarterbacks that we're going to see. Again, Jalen Hurts has to get back into the lab and change the narrative. And again, people don't get me misconstrued here. I can acknowledge Brock Purdy's excellence while also acknowledging that Jalen Hurts while he also may be an excellent player, I still believe Jalen Hurts has to get back into the lab and change the narrative about what happened this past season because this is the NFL and it's all about what have you done for me lately. And yes, Jalen Hurts did give me 38 total touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, he did give me 38 passing, and I believe he also gave me 605 rushing yards. He did give me north of 60 rush attempts that accounted for first downs. He did give me a lot of production, yes, but he also gave me 20 turnovers this past season. So I have to acknowledge all the stats. I can't pick and choose. I think Jalen Hurts will bounce back. I don't think 2023 is who he is. I'm looking forward to seeing what the new quarterback coach, Doug Nussmeier, can do with him because he has a lengthy history of working with quarterbacks, 20 plus years of experience. So overall, congratulations to Brock Purdy for making it to where he is. He's been productive over the past 2 seasons. We got to respect it.
And I root for him.
Yeah,
He's an underdog.
And that's another thing too. He's an underdog, seventh round pick. No one had anything. No one was betting on Brock Purdy to be anything in the NFL. He took advantage of his opportunity, and you got to acknowledge that. Same thing with Jalen Hurts, second round pick. He was given the opportunity and he ran with it. Got a $50 million deal out of it. So again, Jalen Hurts, he's the franchise quarterback. You hold those guys to a higher standard, and Jalen Hurts has to come back even better. In the 2024 season because a lot is riding on it.
My problem with the offense now is like they're trying to make it a finesse offense.
Mm.
It just looks too finesse to me now because Hurts he's the ultimate fear. You know, and you said something just a couple seconds ago. You know, I think Jalen is in the 2022 position that Lamar was in with all the question marks. And then Lamar this past season, not counting the postseason, obviously.
Right.
I think he changed that narrative back around again. Do I think that he can have the same bounce back that Lamar can? I do, but I want to see how this whole bee's nest looks.
You want to see how it fits.
Coaches
you want to see
and
how
the
it fits.
scheme.
And I think that's fair to surmise. I think, when you think about all the changes that they've gone through over the past, let's just say the past year, because
how about the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, we can do that too. Just over the past few weeks, right? You bring in Kellen Moore, a guy who's smart and who knows what he's doing, but at the same time, you question if it's a fit because of his history with quarterbacks. So I think that's fair to question. And then you bring in Doug Nussmeier, a guy who has 20 plus years of working with quarterbacks on many levels in the football game. He's been attached to many successful programs like Michigan, like Alabama, Fresno State, things like that. Obviously, the Cowboys, the Chargers. He's been all over when it comes to coaching quarterbacks.
I know who he is.
Right. So, although I don't know if it's a fit, because I can't say it's a fit because we haven't seen them play, right? Although I can't say that definitively, what I'm optimistic about is the fact that you have a guy who has 20 plus years of working with quarterbacks. I would like to think in those 20 plus years, he's been able to work with more than just a drop back guy, right? I'm pretty sure he worked with dual threat guys, all that kind of stuff too. That's just an assumption on my part. But again, 20 plus years of experience, I feel comfortable with Jalen Hurts walking into a war zone with the general with 20 plus years of experience. You follow me? So,
Yep,
that's where I'm at with him.
All right. Let me go to some of the topics here now.
Let's have some fun. Let's do it.
What about some of the exiting coaches saying that the problem that you had in the building was the communication skills of Sean Desai, and that it became very adversarial to the point where some of the defensive players weren't even speaking to him.
Right.
He was calling guys out in meetings by saying, we have some players in here who think they know better, and I won't name any names.
Mm-hmm.
Those were just some of the quotes that were in a team meeting, not a position meeting, a team meeting. And that it got so bad that Nick he wanted to defend him, but the players kind of mutinied on him.
Right.
And that's why they had no other choice but to go to Patricia, because there was no one else in the building who had that kind of title, and it was kind of a Band-Aid. Doesn't it, Tone, make a little more sense now on why Nick did that? I'm not saying it was right to go to Patricia, but the players were the ones that weren't listening to him. It wasn't that they weren't listening to Nick. They weren't listening to Desai. And you know what? I say this to you.
Do you think that's why players have been going above and beyond?
Being a position coach or a coordinator to head coach in communication skills. Why wouldn't you think that also would be a factor, going from a position coach to a coordinator where you're running the entire unit? And that wouldn't be as easy as being able to transform yourself into being kind of guy too, being a coordinator, on how that's not going to be a tough climb to get into that position. So I'm not making excuses. I heard this, and I heard it from two people, a player, and I heard it from a former position coach in there, that's kind of what melted down at the end. And I went like this. Okay. What do you take away from that?
It's fascinating because it makes you think now, when you have players coming out, specific players coming out saying that, they don't believe Nick Sirianni lost the locker room, things like that. It makes you question, did he actually lose the locker room, or did the defense lose faith in the play caller, right? So, look, man, it's so much hearsay, but I will say this though, if I hope I'm not speaking out of turn when I say this, and if I am, I'll gladly stand on it and correct myself if need be. I think a few weeks ago, we had Mike Sealski on Sports Take, and we didn't get a chance to really get into it, but I think he said something along the lines of, and if I'm out of turn, I'll gladly correct it at a later date. I believe he said that the players actually weren't really on board with Sean Desai. Like the players kind of welcomed the change.
Huh.
And again, that was then, and we didn't really get a chance to iron it out because we were so focused on the Matt Patricia side of things.
Huh.
But
and our target was Nick Moore.
And our target was Nick Moore. So it's so funny. This coming out doesn't necessarily shock me, but at the same time, you know, it's always frustrating where you hear all the news after a guy left the building. You know, it's a little bit corny to me. But overall, the reality is the players weren't buying into whatever Sean Desai was selling. And Nick had to make a move, or Howie Roseman had to make a move, whoever you think made the move. I think it was more so on the higher side of things. But, you know, it's an unfortunate circumstance. But that's why I think a guy like Vic Fangio, bringing him in the building, sort of solidifies that role and provides a certain pedigree and demands a certain level of respect. That's why I love what Coach Dave Wannstedt had to say. The fact that his scheme won't fail. This is good. Like his leadership won't fail. This isn't going to. If this thing doesn't work out, trust me, it won't be because of him.
Oh boy, I'll tell you what. I think Dave put Howie on the clock there with that, because
I appreciated that.
He basically said, "Hey, that guy is too good. His scheme's not going to be the issue why you won't win. It's going to be because the players can't execute, like you just said." Yeah. That's a big comment.
Absolutely. And again, for a guy to last this long in NFL circles when his scheme is being, you know, hijacked by so many different D coordinators, and, you know, for him to still be in the NFL with that fact being out there and he's still reinventing what he's doing, that's the only way you can last in the NFL that long. If everyone hijacks your game plan and now they pretty much know what's coming from you, you have to continue to reinvent yourself. And for him to last this long in the league and have this many opportunities, he has to be doing something right. And I think Coach Wannstedt also said the Miami thing didn't really fit with his, you know, his personality, I guess. Let's just say that. It wasn't really his cup
I heard
of
he
tea.
hated it.
So, and right, he isn't the first person I heard say something similar.
I heard he hated the environment of South Florida, and like he just
it's a soft place. Let's be honest. Like not to you.
No. Here's the difference, Tone. When I went to school there, and South Florida, I mean, hey, Overtown, Liberty City, Jerome used to tell me this: you better put your Canes uniform on, son. And I was there for a reason, because the only thing wider than me walking through them areas were the lines in the highway. And Jerome would be like this: you better put that jersey on, son, so they know who you are.
Because I ain't gonna walk with you everywhere.
Yeah, hey, oh, says you a Cane. It's all. I'm like, yeah. Wow. And I'll tell you, they cleaned up. Funny. You know, South Beach used to be what you saw in Scarface.
Yep. It's funny you say that. You ever seen Cocaine Cowboys?
Yeah, Cocaine. Yeah. By the way, one of my dear friends who went to school with me, Billy Corbin, directed that.
Billy Corbin is a genius. That
Billy
documentary
Corbin,
is
who's
insane.
been on he's been on this program numerous times, by the way.
Yeah.
And I love him, and I
never knew the entire South Beach, Miami city was literally built on the cocaine trade.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Completely. And I would show up to Party Stone, me and Stubbs and Jerome and all that. We'd show up to a party down in South Beach or down in Miami, and you would go to these little tables that had like a little dish that was sitting in the middle, and it looked like a little flower dish, and you'd have drinks, and in the middle of it would be a bar. And I'm going like, what's that? Is that like cheese? The guy goes, dude, that's cocaine. I'm like, what?
Yo, live chat. No, we're not going to let that go. He said, is that cheese?
Is that cheese? And the guy in Stubbs goes, man, that's cocaine. What are you, crazy? And I'm going like this. Hey, man, I go, I'm already a nervous guy. This ain't working for me. Just give me tequila and shots. And so I'm like, oh, hey, dude, there'd be like 25 tables. And I go, oh, look at that. They're serving cheese. Jerome looks over at me and goes, dumbass, that's Coke. And it'd be the size of a soap bar.
That is crazy. My
Hey,
goodness,
and those are
man.
the kind of, yeah, I know. It was all down there, Coconut Grove. We'd go down there, Coconut Grove. Get this, Ed DeBartolo owned a place called the Mayfair Center. We'd go down there to the Mayfair Center. My aunt stayed there. I had a swimming pool up top. They used to give me like rooms and shit, jacuzzis at night. It was just, hey, Tone. Hey, man, it was a harder environment. Now you go down there, it looks soft.
And it speaks to the way the Miami Dolphins were being talked about all year, right? The biggest knock on them was they can't be good teams and they're soft. And here we are.
It's a soft city.
Yeah, here we are.
Well, it wasn't. Now it is.
A lot can change in a decade or two, right?
Hey, man, I'll tell you what. You go down to Little Havana, you go to Liberty City over town. I'll tell you, that was New York ain't got shit on them places down there, or they didn't. Okay, when I first got down there, Tone, the old Mario boat lift cages were still under I-95 where they put those people in those cages, those Cuban refugees. You could go through 95 on the way down to the John L. Knight Center where the Canes played, along with the Miami Heat, until they built AAA. You could see the cages still down there where people were held down in there. And you could see where they had all the vatos down there and they hung out. You could see all the Cuban gang symbols that they had under the bridge in 95. It's quite a place to be raised when I went to school there.
Florida is a hell of a state, man. That state is like the Wild Wild West, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man. South Florida was clearly the Wild Wild West. All right, let me get on to this one here.
Let's do it.
Fletcher Cox is not a $10 million guy.
Yeah.
Can't pay old guys anymore.
I was listening to that, to your point earlier, and my mindset has always been this, right? I put it to you this way. I would love to have Fletcher Cox back here because I still believe he's a good player. I would love to have him back. Thank you for saying that. I want him back too. Not at $10 million. Not at the number that he might be looking for, because there's so many things. Market. It's so funny you say that, and I'm glad
he won't get that at 34.
I'm glad we're here because the current free agent market for DTs. Let's make sure we get that on right here. Defensive tackles. The current free agent market for DTs is saturated with a lot of talented guys, man. And I'm not sure if he's going to get 10 on the open market, at 33 years old. And it doesn't help with the fact that in 2022, the Eagles gave him 14. And in 2023, he settled for 10. So what's the likelihood that the NFL is going to give you more than that when technically your numbers aren't exactly as high as they were the year before? Granted, it's not a big
34 during the year.
I can
Does
find
he
out
become
exactly.
34 or did he just turn it?
I think he just turned 33. His birthday. Okay. Oh yeah, he just turned 33. He's only 33 and 62 days old. So, he just turned 33 about 2 months ago.
I'm not paying $10 million. I'll give you 3.5 with escalators and bonuses to get another 2.
So basically, you max him out at $6 million. Basically, you max him out there.
Boy, that's high too. But yes, I'll do 6 because I'll take the other 4, Tone, and allocate it with other deals I'm going to restructure for safeties and linebackers, because you're not going to have a ton of dough. We're going to get into that here in a second. I'm just saying, you've got to find money for quality. You can't keep throwing bad money after bad players.
The Eagles have one too many bad contracts, especially in the DB room. I talked about that earlier with Rob. I was saying that one of the things I feel like they need to address almost immediately is those contracts and those contracts in the DB room. Is you can't have James Bradbury and Darius Slay making the money they're making if they're not producing at that level, especially James Bradbury. Again, I think Darius Slay had an okay year, but you can't
pay for aging players anymore.
It's easy to find a diamond in the pile of shit. You know what I'm saying? You can see it. It's right there. So that's why I look at the Eagles funny when they say, "Oh yeah, Zach Cunningham had this great year," and I'm like, I mean, he was surrounded by guys who sucked.
They're compromising themselves with their own comments.
Yeah, I don't I think I would I would love to have Fletcher Cox back, but the number got to make sense for me, and because the Eagles have
we need
so
help.
many, they have so many
So if
holes.
you
like,
had 2 or 3 holes, I might live with it. By the way,
and
doesn't that also an indictment on the 9th and the 13th pick and a 3rd round pick that you don't feel comfortable enough to move off of a 33-year-old DT?
that's a great
Doesn't
point.
that tell you? Doesn't that make you go, well,
It's a great
shit,
point.
dude. Look how much money you spent, and look how much draft equity you spent, and
It's a
you're
great
not
point.
comfortable yet?
Look, you bring up a great point because the reason they drafted Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter was so
Is
they
to
can
move off of
so they
Fletcher.
can move off of Fletch, so they can move off of the Hargrave contract, right? So they were 1 for 2, right? Think about this. They drafted Jordan Davis so they can move off of Fletcher. Their plan, I'm willing to bet this. I'm willing to bet that their real plan was to move off Fletch, draft JD, and let their 2 starting DTs be JD and Hargrave. And then the following year, once Hargrave, when it was time for Henry up, their plan was to let him go. Hopefully they get a DT. They landed on Jalen Carter, and then those could be their 2 guys. But again, it didn't work out that way. Obviously, Jalen Carter filled in for Hargrave pretty well. He had a slow back end of the season, but he's a rookie. I expect him to get that figured out. Overall, I think they're 1 for 2 in that regard. I think Jordan Davis, his rookie year, disappointed them. Therefore, which is why they had to bring in Ndamukong Suh, why they had to bring in Linval Joseph, right? And why they felt like they needed to bring back Fletcher Cox. So I think this is a situation. I think this is a situation where the Eagles have, and again, I've been looking at their roster over the weekend, and since this is the offseason, I'm trying to figure out what makes sense for them. They have so many holes. They have no depth. They have no depth, and they have no money. So when you think about it from that perspective, as much as I love a Fletcher Cox, as much as I love a lot of these players, they have to make sure they're good 2, 3, 4 years. They have they need, this team is nowhere near as close as people think they are.
They're not.
They have no
That
depth.
defense is so Tone. The amount of quarterbacks that
And this is not an opinion. This is literally me looking at their roster, looking at the money, and saying, okay, at the wide receiver position, I only see 2 receivers worth of that. Okay, at the running back position, who do you have? At the tight end position, Dallas Goedert, but he can't stay healthy. Who do you have after that? The O-line, you got Driscoll and Sewell-Opeta, who's ready to re-up this offseason because they don't have a contract. Okay, you got starters, but what's the future with Jason Kelsey? Can Lane Johnson survive another season? He battles injuries here and there. They have a lot of things that they have to figure out, and I didn't even get to defense yet.
I know. I got you here. Let me get to this other one here. The Birds have to look at the safety and linebacker position differently. The last time they drafted a safety in the first round was Lito Shepherd in 2002. And the last time they took a linebacker in the first round was 1979.
Lito was a corner. Lito Shepherd was a corner.
Okay, he was a corner?
Yeah, he was a
corner.
Then
I can't remember. When's the last time they drafted a safety?
In the first round? I don't think they ever have. And I mean, somebody correct me, but I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime them draft a safety in the first round.
Okay.
I mean, Brian Dawkins.
The linebacker is 1979.
Right. And Brian Dawkins was a 2nd round pick, and that was how long ago? So it's just I believe they do need to revamp their mentality when it comes to those 2 positions in particular. The harder your defense has been getting carved up year after year after year, and you think it's not an issue, that's insanity to me. It doesn't add up.
1979. That's the year before the first Super Bowl they went to.
And then on top of that,
was the kid Robinson from UCLA.
Yeah, and then on top of that, what frustrates me the most about the Philadelphia Eagles is when they do land on a guy. For example, TJ Edwards. I will die on this hill until the end of time, and I don't care what anyone says, and I will not let it go, because as bad as the linebacker play has been, mentally I can't let go and forget them completely dropping the ball with the TJ Edwards contract negotiations. You didn't even make him an offer. You found him as an undrafted guy. You developed him.
They paid in money what they paid those bad players they brought in. The same money they could have paid Edwards with for a surefire thing.
And he stays healthy. He doesn't get hurt.
and you can help matriculate Nakobe Dean into the defense and give him reps and put him in position to succeed.
It
And
would have
give him
been a
chance
way
at his
smoother
game to
transition.
find out if he could play or not. Instead,
Yes.
you basically put him in a fire and he was doused in gasoline.
Quite
He
literally.
never had a chance.
Never had a chance. And I look at Nakobe Dean and I say, I can't even blame him because I can't even judge him. I can't even judge his talent. All I can definitively say about him is he can't stay healthy. That's all I can say. But other than that, when you find a guy like TJ Edwards and he's undrafted and you develop him and you groom him and he develops to a Super Bowl level linebacker. Let's not forget, they didn't win the game, but he was good enough to play. He was good enough to play up until that point in the Super Bowl. So you developed a Super Bowl caliber linebacker and you let him walk out the door because you didn't want to give him $6.5 million.
Let me do this. Moves in the offseason again. I'm finished with Avonte Maddox.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Time to move on.
2 years in a row, he missed primarily the whole season.
2.5 in dead cap, 7.1 million. You can get there in cap space.
Like I'm not.
So
like,
it offsets itself a bit. I'm done with him.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not in the business of babysitting guys and just have. Look, I'm not in the business of running an infirmary ward. Right? That's not what the Philadelphia Eagles are. We're trying to win games here. And 2 years in a row, he's been non-playable because of injury. Right? He's missed most of the season 2 years in a row. How can I invest in that? How can I bank on that? Right? This is about two things in the NFL. It always comes down to two things in the league: availability and the money. Simple as that. If you're not, I will pay someone who's available, who's a lesser talent, than someone who's a bigger talent and never there.
That's right.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
And Avonte Maddox has not been reliable.
And I tell people, anytime you hear an analyst or talk show host using the word, this guy's got great potential, that means he hasn't done it.
First of all, with all due respect, Avonte Maddox is how old and what year? Let me make sure. Come on, man.
How many years has he been on the Eagles?
All right, so the Philadelphia Eagles, here we are. This is Avonte Maddox here. This is the Avonte Maddox salary profile here. So Avonte Maddox,
you get $14 million on that releasing of the contract. Is that right?
He was drafted in the 4th round. He's 27 years old. He's been in the league for 5 years. They drafted him in 2018. He was a part of that Dallas Goedert draft. Yeah, I think with Josh Sweat too, right? Yeah, with Josh Sweat. So this is where they are. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent next season. But when I look at the cap hit and I look at the dead cap, if I'm the Eagles, I'm restructuring that and I'm finding a way to get away from it.
Yeah,
I can't trust him.
No,
I can't trust him.
It's over.
That's my mindset.
The thing's over. I think we all agree we're cutting Kevin Byard.
Yeah, he's out. He's definitely out.
I don't even think that's a debate. Now, my question to you is, let me go here with Reddick. Who do you think has the leverage in the Hassan Reddick conversation?
That's a really good question. I heard you talking about that earlier, and I was struggling with it.
Let me lay it out. Let me lay
Reddick's going to be 30-something when that contract ends. He's going to be 30, right?
Let me lay it out this way to you, because this came out for me on what you told me, that when you said his market value,
$15.8 million. Yep.
Okay, that's kind of what he makes now.
Yep.
And that number's not going to continue to go up.
It's only going to go down.
It's actually, if it's stable, and it's going to go down.
Right. You can make an argument because the Eagles signed him at $15 million per year. His value has stayed the same throughout the entire length of the contract, which is good, but I don't think that goes up from this point forward.
No, I don't either. And I would say this to you. Okay, so I think the Eagles have the leverage here. And
real quick, can you break down why you think they have the leverage?
Because he would not get $15 million on the open market. I'm not going to pay for a one-trick pony $15 million, who, again, the reason why, I mean, even the Eagles this last year struggled in the second half of the season utilizing his strengths because he doesn't have very many. He has one great skill set.
So it's fair to argue although he has a tremendous pass rush ability, it's fair to argue that he limits you on defense because he's not versatile.
He's not a good tackler. And if he doesn't get home, he's useless. And the Eagles didn't get home.
And
I mean, his 12 sacks meant nothing at the end. When you watch this, do you think Hassan Reddick's 12 sacks meant anything when you had the worst pass defense in the league?
it also didn't really mean anything as well when quarterbacks had a month of Sundays to get the ball out of there.
Yeah, you're going 76% completion percentage against the Eagles, and you're sitting there going like this. Well, why am I paying $15 million again to him? So he would not get that money on the open market. So what I do is this: I don't want him out of the building, though.
Now, if I'm his agent and I retort to you and say, and again, we're just trying to ping pong this to figure it out. If I'm his agent and I say to you, well, my guy has had 4 back-to-back years, double-digit sacks, 2 years with you back-to-back years of double-digit sacks. He's your best pass rusher. You're going to pay him his value. What do you say to that?
You're the only person that you're going to be talking with is me, that is going to pay you the money you're making right now in the open market. And the only reason you're talking to me right now like this is because you have delivered that. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get that money in the open market. I'll tell you what we'll do. Go test free agency. We want you back.
Call us bluff.
Go test free agency and see if you get $18-20 million. Have at it. I would call his bluff because, I mean, fuck, you drafted Nolan Smith. What's up? I mean, you can't keep sitting here throwing money after money when you keep missing on your draft picks.
Correct.
You see, Nolan Smith in that non-productive year, no production at all.
Right.
Hurts the Eagles in their leverage with Reddick.
Agreed.
They brought him and hired and signed him and drafted him in the first round to negotiate with Reddick. But now they're going to think, well, he's not really ready. And they're right, the agent. But at the end of the day, hey, your 12 sacks meant shit to us. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to extend you. We're going to give you another year. I want to get that 11.8 down, and I want to make it manageable in your
So you want to give him more money up front?
No, I didn't say more money.
Not more.
I want to give you another year.
Another year. Okay.
Here's another year at 15.
What's the guaranteed dollars? You know they care about that.
Okay. Right. Well, that's negotiable.
Okay.
The upfront money, hey, listen, I'm going to put money in your pocket, but I'm not going to pay you more. Now, if does Reddick sit here and go, fuck that? But here I turn around and go like this to you. You're not getting $20 million on the open market.
At 30.
If you go out and we find your true market value and it comes back, hey, Jesse Bates was the only safety that got a decent deal. The rest of them. One. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
Okay, so he goes on the open market and the Eagles find out. Don't think of it. He's only been offered $9 million. You are counterproductive to your own negotiations.
That's a good point. That's why, when I think about Hassan Reddick and the market value, I'm thinking to myself, all right, he's going to be 30 when this contract ends.
He's got to do this now.
Yeah. And this is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be his last. Excuse me.
See, Tone, I think this is going to be as difficult of a negotiation as trying to get those corners off their numbers. Because Reddick has produced in giving you numbers. But, I mean, maybe you give him a couple extra million. But I need money for me to be able to fill all the holes I have and the depth I need on defense.
I agree.
What are you having, an aneurysm?
I have no idea what's going on, but damn, that surprised the hell out of me. But nonetheless,
Dude, you have
though,
like an aneurysm over
I figured it out. Hassan Reddick, like you said, it's going to be 30. You're not getting that money on the open market. And if I'm the Eagles, I'm going to test this gangster. I'm going to call his bluff. I'm going to say, okay, go find out. Go find out, because we're willing to extend you and give you more money. You don't want it? Okay. We'll play out this deal.
And by the way, don't let me find out you were only offered 9 by 3 teams.
Don't let me find out.
I'll roll back on that number 2 on you.
So that's the question. Who's his agent? CAA Sports. Do you know anybody at CAA Sports?
I sure do.
Now, with that representation, what's the likelihood they say to him, look, Hassan, they got a point right now? As a matter of fact, here's another thing. Let's take a look at the current market right now for edge rushers. I think that's important too. Let me pull that up real quick.
It's got to be 25.
Let's look at that. All right, so I'm pulling up currently the free agents at edge rusher just to see what the options teams have. Let's see here. All right, I'm about to pull this up for you. So right now, this is the market.
Leonard Williams, 21 million. Daniel Hunter's going to get 20.
Right.
Lawson's going to get 20. Randy Gregory will not.
Right, he won't get 20. Randy Gregory might get 12.
Less.
Something like that. Marcus Davenport, 27 years old. He's going to get 15, I think.
Yeah, somewhere there. Jerome Baker,
Romeo
little less.
Okwara, Zadarius Smith, a little longer the tooth. Yannick Ngakoue.
That's pretty. You know what? 10 million? Hey, Yannick, I'd like to bring you in for depth at 7.
Exactly. I remember I even mentioned Chase Young, 24, going on 25, a young guy coming off of an injury year. I don't have to lock him up with too much money.
5. I would offer him 2 years at 12.
Let's find out what his current market value is. As of right now, Chase Young has a current market value of 13. So you're pretty spot on.
I give him 12.
And I don't see
24 million. I give him 24 million. I'll tell you what I'll do. That's my replacement for Brandon Graham.
I'm willing to roll the dice on him. I'm honestly willing to roll the dice on Chase Young.
Hey,
and find out if he still has it.
That's my starter for Brandon Graham.
And guess what? Because of the situation he's coming out of,
and he played in the division.
Exactly. I'm willing to say, look, we'll give you 1 year, 13 million, 8 million guaranteed, and let's find out, and we'll extend you after that if everything goes well. Can you stay healthy? See, here's the thing about Chase Young. Here's the leverage or other teams have. He has to prove he can stay healthy for a whole year. He has to prove that. So
that's why you only give him a 2-year deal.
Exactly.
If to get out of it in 2.
Exactly. And I'm willing to roll the dice on him.
You do though. You know that 22, how all them players did that 1-year deal?
Yeah.
Because you know what you do? You have the Eagles will have the leverage on negotiations with him. You know why? Dog, you really didn't do shit in San Fran. We think you're going to have a bounce back, because usually after you have a knee-like injury, it's not the year after the injury. It's the second year after the injury that you bounce back. Here's what we'll do. We'll give you a 1-year contract. We'll pay you $12.5 million. We'll have a negotiation. We'd love to have the option on bringing you back. Mm-hmm. But if not, you come in here to Philadelphia. Howie puts that deal out there. You come in and you get 10 sacks. You're going to be a $25 million guy at 25 years old. You'll be able to write your own ticket. He's not going to make 25 million or 20 million. He's between 12 and 13, somewhere in there.
Right. And, just to take it a step further, let's look at the 2025 free agents, because that's when Hassan Reddick is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Let's look at that. So as of right now, these are the guys in 2025 that are due up to make some money. Khalil Mack.
Too old.
Trey Hendrickson.
Let me tell you something.
Hendrickson is good.
I like him with the Bengals. He is underrated, Tone. He is a good football player. That Armstead kid's good.
Mm-hmm. Eric Armstead. Shaq
Barrett's
Barrett,
too old.
Matt Judon, DeMarcus Lawrence, Josh Sweat. You know, it's a lot of guys.
A lot of old guys.
A lot of old guys coming out in 2025. Michael Parsons is obviously coming up. But
wow. Look at all the old edge rushers.
Jalen Phillips is coming up.
Maybe he does have a market when his contract is up.
It's possible.
Where would you rank him? Khalil will not be the same. Hendrickson is probably going to be the top guy, along with Armstead. Reddick third.
See, I would have said Judon, but he's too old.
Yeah. And Lawrence is old.
Right.
Maybe Sweat will have a higher market value than Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, Sweat's market value is $20 million right now.
Yeah. Sweat may be the highest. Sweat, get this. Then that's what we do here too. Do you extend him this year?
I want to get in with Sweat early. So I want to keep
extend him. You can knock that number down $2.5 million on the cap.
Look, I'll put it to you this way: if I had to choose, I'm bringing Sweat back. He's younger. I think he has more of the. I think he has more of the prototype build that I like at edge. You know, I think in my opinion, I think he's a better run defender. Now, does he have moments where he can lose containment too? Sure, but I think he's better than Hassan Reddick from a run defense standpoint. But yeah, again, the age is a huge part of this, man. Huge.
Let me get back to Reddick. What are you going to do with him?
I want to keep him, so I'm make him an offer. I want to keep you, kind of like what you said. I'll extend you, but the number got to make sense. I'm not going to get jobbed out. I'm not going to get jobbed by Hassan Reddick. It's not. You're 30 plus. You're going to be 30 plus. It's not going to happen.
Should you reward him for giving you in the last 2 years 28 sacks?
I pay for that though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I pay for that. You know,
but he'll look at it. His agent will go, "Well, you got us under market value. Well, you should have been a better agent."
No, actually, I got you at your current value.
Yeah, because you were on two different teams.
Granted, you had back-to-back years with double-digit sacks, but they were only 11, 12. Sacks.
And they got written. So you were a free agent,
right? And you were a free agent, and you guys negotiated that deal, and we got you in here at
we actually paid you more than what you got,
right? Because let's be honest, some would say the Eagles took a flyer on Hassan Reddick, thinking that he could translate, to their side of things. They gave him $45 million over the course of 3 years, averaging $15 million a year. They paid him. That's why, I think it's so interesting when we had these conversations. When they paid Hassan Reddick, I think they paid him based on potential too. And did he play above that contract? But everybody played above their contract in 2022. Everybody did.
He wasn't a free agent that didn't make money.
Exactly.
Every guy who was a free agent, Marcus Epps made money.
Exactly. So again, I just can't see myself paying him $20 million.
I'm not paying him $20 million.
I'm not paying him $20 million. If he's not moving off that number, I'm trading him.
You're going to trade him?
If he's not moving off that number, because I want to work on something this offseason. I want to work on something.
Do you move off him and go get Young? Do we have that? That could also bring Graham back.
But how much does he have left in the tank?
Nothing.
That's what I'm curious about. And I don't know.
I don't think he has anything left.
And quite frankly,
how much is he making?
Who? BG?
Yeah.
Let's find out here.
Please don't let that number be high.
Give me one moment here. Because, look, I love BG to death, but I'm in the business of trying to get younger. All right, here we go.
Better.
And better. Let's put it that way. Younger and better.
That's always, hey, that's always the trick, right? It's not always the case.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. So, they gave him going into the season, they gave him a 1-year deal at $5 million, fully guaranteed. That's what they gave him. Now, clearly, to me, it looks like they deferred a lot of his money. So he has a lot of money coming to him later down the line. But as of right now,
Wow, they deferred that 4 years.
yeah, they deferred a lot of that money. A lot of it. It's hard to believe that in 2023 he had
So
a debt.
wait, in 24 he'll make 7?
In 2024, where are we here? That's the 7.9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
He'll make
Well, I mean, no, that's the cap hit. So whatever they deferred, they owe him money.
dude, that guy is about a $2.5 million a year, dude. And I don't want to pay him the money. I want the roster spot more than I even want to pay. Hey, get this. Because he's such a great dude, I'd rather give you the money and give me the roster spot and make you go home. I can't. He's not productive anymore. You're throwing that contract right there is throwing bad money after bad production.
Yeah, the Eagles can't afford any more bad contracts. I personally believe this offseason
It's wasting money.
It's huge. This offseason is so huge for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have so many decisions to make. They have so much money they got to move around. Howie Roseman's going to earn that paycheck this offseason. I'm willing to argue this might be his most difficult offseason.
Yeah, because guess what he's fighting? The inability to draft well at certain positions and the lack of money for him to be able to maneuver.
And the positions that he can't really draft well at, he needs players the most.
You know, one last thing here, Tone. Here's some dates on the Eagles schedule that are coming up. So February 11th is tag day. Do you think any of the free agents still tag him? Any free agent out there that you think they'll tag?
For the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, because you got to think about what those franchise tags are. At that point, you're burning money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're literally burning money.
February 27th through March 4th is the combine. So we're right around the corner here. We're like 25 days out from the combines. They have to get their draft in order here. March 11th through the 13th, I call it legal tampering. This is when teams get the opportunity to talk to some of the free agents that are out there and see what the market value is. Right here, see that March 11th through 13th? I'm telling Hassan Reddick, why don't you walk out there and check it out?
Same thing they did with D. Slay. Same thing they did. Go ahead, find out.
Go ahead.
Let's find out.
March 13th starts the new year of the league. That's when Hurts' contract kicks in, March 13th.
And that's when the clock starts.
March 13th, $50 million.
The clock starts. And now we're going to really find out how good of a GM Howie Roseman is.
Yeah.
We're going to really find out.
Hey, that's like witching day right there for the Eagles. That's a big money day there.
Absolutely.
March 15th is OTAs.
I know.
Workouts, so you start.
I know Hurts can't wait for that check to clear.
Oof, man. What a big day that is. April 19th.
It's Christmas.
Is restricted free agents. I think the only Eagle that's a restricted free agent is Jack Stoll. Does that make sense?
Yes, correct. Yes. And that's yeah.
I don't care about him. I think you like him though.
I like him, but he's replaceable.
And April 25th through the 27th is the NFL draft. That's kind of what's on the horizon over the next couple weeks here. So you've got to get – there's no one you're going to tag.
What do you think their first 3 picks are going to be, like position-wise? Like not names,
corner, edge, backer.
Corner, edge, backer.
I could see corner, edge, O-line.
That's what I was about to say. I was going to say corner, edge, O-line. I could definitely see them doing that. And drafting a backer maybe in the 4th.
Back into the draft, I mean, after the first 3, then I think you go running back. Then I think you go safety. Then I would do safety. And with one of those 6th rounders, maybe package it up. In the 5th round, I draft a quarterback.
They're going to have so many young guys in their defense. So many. But I'll say this, though, right? I know this is an uncomfortable proposition, but because this defense was so bad last year, I'm willing to go through the growing pains of a young defense. I am. I know it's.
So you're gonna just so you know.
I know.
Just so you know, when you say that,
it's scary. I know.
You got Dak. You've got Deshaun Watson, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence. that you're going to run into with
Jordan
all them
Love.
young fellas.
Yep. I hear you, and you're making perfect sense. But my retort to that is, what other option do they have?
Oh, no.
They don't
Hey,
have.
but
They
here-
don't have much money to spend.
But
They
here,
don't.
on the road, you're playing Burrow, Lamar, Baker. Oh, no, here. On the road, you're going to be playing Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Dak, Mayfield, Stafford, and Lawrence.
Howie Roseman, time to earn that paycheck, brother. Because
I
like
sure
I
hope
said,
Jalen can play safety. It ain't on him.
Jalen gonna have to play every position, right?
Jalen's gonna have to. Hey, Jalen, I know you're making $50 million. Do you think we could throw an extra 5 in there, man, for you to play safety for us too, dude?
Hey, listen, if we throw in an extra $2 million, can you fly the plane too?
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, we'll pay you 60, man. Can you play corner for us, or can you play safety? Because we're going to need some help. By the way, remember this: when somebody says, and they do this, well, some of those guys Jalen's already had great games against. Well, no,
that was last year.
No, not only that, not that defense. When Drew Lock beats you, and Tyrod Taylor beats you, and who else? Tommy DeVito,
basically,
and then Baker Mayfield runs you off the field.
Mm-hmm. Kyler Murray, yep, he was the best quarterback you lost to in the last weeks, and even then he was coming off. And even then he was coming off injury.
Amen.
So he was one.
Hey, tomorrow, did you hear this? So I got Rohan Marley on.
Yeah. Rohan played for the U, right?
Yeah, played for the U. Was married to Lauryn Hill.
I know, man. Lauryn Hill. She's no. Nice.
Here, I'm at the house, and she comes walking in. You're like, okay, yeah, that's right there. I mean, he looks over at me and he goes like this. I go, and he goes like this. What do you mean? I go, oh, dude, you kicked your coverage. This is ridiculous. And who's the guy? Who's the guy that was the head of the Fugees?
You talking about Wyclef Jean?
Yeah. Wyclef was in there. He was there too.
Wow, that's crazy.
And my wife and I are going like this. Because we love the Fugees. We did. And he played soccer and rugby for Jamaica. And I've known the Marley family since I was a kid.
Wow.
And tomorrow's Bob Marley's birthday.
Yeah, his movie,
he's a big sportsman.
His movie, I think, just came out or is coming out.
It's coming out. It's a documentary. That's what we're.
Yeah,
we're gonna get him on. And
it's
he's interesting.
Feature film. The acting looks spectacular. I'm looking forward. I want to see it. It looks really good. It has my girl Lashana Lynch playing Bob Marley's wife.
Hey, so what's up with your guy Killer Mike, man?
Hey, listen, man. They
dropped the cuffs on his ass. Will Smith could beat the shit out of Chris Rock, and they don't say shit to that. They don't do anything. But this guy here, they drop cuffs on him. Hey,
ridiculous.
He's doing this. Look, these guys got like 3 Emmys with. I would put that on my next cover of my album. I would have 3 Grammys in my handcuffs.
With the cuffs, right? That's kind of hard, actually. That's hard. Yeah. But no, man, that was weird. My man won 3 Grammys, swept the Grammys in the hip hop category, and all of a sudden, you put cuffs on him over some alleged misdemeanor. Like they picked him up
right in front of 60 million people and beats the shit out of someone. They don't
on
do
live
anything.
television. The world saw Will Smith smack the bullshit out of Chris
I'm
Rock.
like, oh, hey, I just want to mean the Grammys owe me shit because I mean, if you're an Academy Award scumbag, they'll let you do whatever you want. And by the way, I like Will Smith too.
I do too. That's the crazy part about it. I like Will Smith. But as far as the Killer Mike thing, that was crazy because it's so funny. They asked him about what happened. He said, "Man, there was a little speed bump. We partied afterwards. Don't worry about it. A little speed bump."
Hey, is he an old school rapper?
So Killer Mike's been around since
I don't know. His work.
So yeah, Killer Mike's been around since early 2000s. Even late 90s. Hung around with Dungeon Family.
Okay.
So worked with Andre 3000, Big Boy. He's a part of that thing with Future. With Future.
Did he work with Puffy ever?
Not that I know of. Okay. He's a Southern rapper. So
okay.
He's affiliated with Outkast.
I bet you Luke knows him.
Yeah,
Because
Killer
Luke's
Mike.
a Southern Luke's Southern rappers, Miami based.
Yeah, Killer Mike has been around for a long time. Killer Mike's from
I
Atlanta,
bet you
Georgia.
Luther knows him.
Yeah, Killer Mike he gets a lot of respect in the game, man. That's why when I saw people kind of say what they were saying, like, "Oh yeah, who's this guy?" I'm like, "Come on, stop playing yourselves, man."
You know
like,
what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna reach out to Luke and see if I can. I'd like to know this guy.
Killer Mike is
I
legit.
bet you. Hey, if not him, I know Method Man lives. He's from down in there, and Method Man's my boy, and he's a Hurricane fan. Huge dude. Method Man's another one of my guys.
Yeah, Method Man, New York, baby. That's
dude.
Method Man's
I love. Hey,
I love Method
You'd be
Man.
shocked, Tone, who I know.
That's what I'm saying. You keep surprising me. I appreciate. I like it though. You keep surprising me,
dude. I was boys with Suge.
You told me about that. You said they called him Sugar Bear back in the day, right?
Sugar Bear, because he played at UNLV. He played with Randall.
What?
He played with Randall with the Rebels. He was a defensive. Get this. He was an all Mountain West defensive tackle for the UNLV running Rebels when Randall was there, and he was good. There's a film of him and Harvey Hyde, who I did radio with in Vegas. And he was the head coach of the UNLV running Rebels, and he coached Randall and Suge. And so Suge wasn't the head of Death Row yet. He was a bodyguard. Does that sound right? He was like a bodyguard for a while, and he would come into Vegas, and he would sit and watch us do our shows. And Harvey Hyde, who follows me now on Twitter, and I thanked him, man, because, man, I've been friends with Suge a long time. So Suge comes up, yeah, man, yeah, you know, I'm doing a lot of bodybuilding. Well, I'm a bodyguard work, and he played with the Rams. I played against him.
That's insane.
And get this, you know the other tackle was? It was Big Van Vader. Leon White. Wrestler guy. Big Van Vader. So they had these two gigantic guys.
Massive.
So then, like 3 years later, I see Suge Knight is like the CEO and president of Death Row Records. And I go to Harvey. I go, is that the same dude? He's like, yeah. And I go, how'd you get the name Suge? He goes, it used to be Sugar Bear. They dropped the Sugar Bear, and they just went Suge. Everyone at UNLV called him Sugar Bear.
Man, it's crazy how, like I said, you know, a lot of people, man. Like you shock me every time, every single time, man. That like when we did that Saturday show with The Rock, I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, man, I did a lot of drinking with Suge. You want to see a guy throw it, dude? Oh, he's in it.
I seen him throw some people.
Dude,
I seen him throw some people.
He's bigger than you think.
He's a house.
That's
a house.
Beast. And me and him got along great.
Because you're what, 6'3", 6'4"?
6'2".
6'2". And what is he, what, 6'5"?
He's like 6'4" and a half, 6'5", 355.
Damn,
still gigantic guns.
That's three people in one.
Dude. And I asked Vanilla Ice, because he's a Miami guy. I go, he goes, he didn't exactly hang me out the window. He bent me over the railing. And
what difference do it make?
Yeah, right. I go, he goes, let me just say this, man. That guy's a scary dude, man. I'm like, yeah, I know him, man. He's like, yeah, I know you know him. Do me a favor. Every time he comes down to Miami, we go to these parties and I see him. I'm afraid still. I'm like, I think you should be. I go like, there's certain guys, man, that just, you know, you saw what he did on set with Ice Cube. You know, Ice Cube's my boy too, right?
Yeah.
So he was on set on Straight Outta Compton, and Ice Cube goes like this because he wanted to try to shake him down. Him and they wanted to try to shake him down for some money. And Dre and them go, man, you ain't getting shit from us. So one of the head producers, motherfucker, ran him over with his car.
That's what I'm saying.
He's in jail because he ran the guy. Then guess what he did? He backed the car up and ran him over again.
Yo, did that person live?
I'm not sure.
Hey,
yo,
Suge is he's a rare breed, man. That's a line right there.
Like, just, you know, kind of, you
know. Yeah. New topic, right? New topic.
Yeah, new topic. All right. Hey, Tone, great stuff, man.
Of course, always, Sills. Appreciate you.
You got it. All right. Hit the like button. Keep it here on National Football Show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
EAGLEX Eagles.
Hold on here for a second. Okay, dude, I was worried. I didn't see BJ. You know, it's like, you know, my world famous stalker. Hey, Philly 007. You'll be somebody when you get a stalker like LJ. It's wonderful. Oh, I think somebody kept score. I think there's 26 posts today. So 26, 5, then down there. 26 per hour, that is. That's 52, 104, 5. Yeah, be about 600, 1,200 for 2. Shit, man, he's on pace for 25,000 posts. It's wonderful. Yeah. Hey, BJ, thanks. Got him. Got him. Congratulations, BJ. Got him. Got what? What the fuck are you talking about? Got him. I'm not sure what that means. Dude, if you're in a swimming pool and you're like struggling, I might just walk by. I don't know. I'm not getting involved in that. This is kind of what I am. Got him. I don't really get that, what that means. You have no guess, so you talk about me. How in the world wouldn't I talk about a guy who posts 26,000 times a year on my show? Wouldn't it be kind of odd? I mean, LJ, I could just tell Tone to block you, but I don't because I'm not sure. You know, I don't want you to go home and kill yourself. So I don't want that on my conscience. You know that, Tone, that's the only reason that I don't have you, because I don't want him to go home and kill himself. So, I mean, that's the only reason I don't block you, you know. The chat will revolt. Like what? Dude, there's nobody in here that knows who you are. They don't know you from a can of paint. Okay. Congratulations, LJ. Put your little head on your pillow tonight and come up with another 25,000 tweets tomorrow or posts. I mean, you know, eventually my wife's going to get a little upset with you. You know, who are you talking to? Who's LJ? What's her number? Because you usually don't talk to dudes. No, I don't talk to dudes. Hey, Tone, just so you know, Big Sills doesn't go to bars with guys. My friends used to go like this all the time. Hey, Sills, a couple of us are going to bars. Like, how many? 10. I don't show up to bars with 10 guys. You never see Big Sills walking into a bar with 10 dudes. Unless, and by the way, if it's a fantasy draft, you better bring your old lady. Okay? Now, if you want to go out and you bring a chick with you, that's good. But if you walk into a bar with 10 dudes, hey, Sills, what do you want? I want to leave. Okay? I want to leave. Yeah. I want to leave. Yeah, some guys, they used to invite me. Lorenzo used to invite me to those draft parties, which I don't have a problem with. And I need to be more in touch with those, you know? And so, a Shooter, Hooters still is a sponsor. They're just not on in the winter. What are you talking about? They've been a sponsor of mine for 40 years. How dumb are some people? They have sponsored my show for 40 years. 35 to be candid. What are you talking about? You have no comments. I mean, I know who he is, Death Row. That's a pretty good football program too. Hey, Philly 007, it's a great place. It's a fantastic place. I've known Ed Drotsky, who founded the place. I've known him since he had the place in Tampa. He gave me a lifetime card when I first was with the Bucks. And as I told you, the initial store in Clearwater, the reason that the Hooter colors are what they are is because they're Buccaneer colors, these old Buck colors. Because it was a local store and it was a local restaurant at one time. Then it branched out and then Ed sold it to Coca-Cola. And that's how, you know, the national brand, and they're all franchisees. They're all my friends, guys from Phoenix, San Francisco, Doug Cappy, the guys up now, obviously, in the Philly area with Gary and Phil, South Florida, all those great guys. Ed still owns the Tampa and Clearwater market. All those guys are all my friends. Yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, and how about this? One thing, like I said, if you want to get a draft party together, I'm in. I'm totally in. If you want to just go to a bar with 10 dudes, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that. Rohan Marley's going to join us tomorrow. Very interesting person, one of my dear friends. Tomorrow's Bob Marley's birthday. They got a great documentary come out. He's a sportsman, was married to Lauryn Hill, and I believe that's at 5:30 tomorrow that we will have our good friend on, and he's one of my Kane's brothers. I like what Tone says. Man, you completely shocked me, Sills, on who you know. All right. One thing on the Super Bowl. I wrote down the most prolific and the Mount Rushmore of Super Bowl quarterbacks. And I'm going to end the show with this. Brady, Breeze, Manning, Favre, Montana, Unitas, Elway, Marino, Starr, Bradshaw, Aikman. If you had to put 4 on your Mount Rushmore, who would your 4 be? Super Bowl quarterbacks. I put Brady, Montana, Elway, and Bradshaw. You have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You have 17 Super Bowls between those 4 guys. 17 Super Bowls between those 4. Right, guys? Fantastic. It is Super Bowl week. I believe O.J. Anderson, Phil Simms, I think Dick Vermeil's joining us this week. Trying to think. There's a Raider joining. I think Howie Long's joining us this week. Jimmy Johnson is joining us this week. And if I'm not mistaken, I tried reaching out to the Ditka, but it's hard during the Super Bowl week trying to get him nailed down. So we'll have a bunch of folks that participated in the game. Thank you guys so much. Xander, Big Joe, we thank you. Tone, keep kicking that butt, man. I appreciate it so much. Thank you again. 2 to 6 tomorrow, and we shall see you on the flip side.
Thank you.